Ready, okay. Call to order the meeting of the Green Bay Traffic Commission for Monday, November 16th. Start out with item 1 under general business, approval of the agenda. So moved.
Mr. Chairman, I'm wondering if we should take number 5 out of order
Okay,
first,
5 first, and then any other
because
one?
I think most people are here for number 5.
5 and then 9.
5
Okay.
I was gonna say, I know number 9 is, the majority of people are here for
Oh.
that.
Go to
and 9.
9
5 and
first.
9. Okay.
Right.
9
I
first.
would probably take 9.
Nine first, okay.
Okay.
Any other ones then? Okay, do I have a motion to adjust our agenda?
Those
With
changes.
9 first and then 5?
Yes.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor, motion carries.
All right.
Approval of the minutes from the October 19th, 2015 Traffic Commission meeting.
Move approval.
Motion been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. 3, report by the police department of the 2015 third quarter serious injuries and fatality crashes. You want to move that, Carl?
Yeah, we can move that.
They moved down, okay, all right.
That's fine.
Oh, are we not gonna address it,
Move it down. So we're covering the other ones first.
or? So we're going with number 9
and
then?
5.
For number 9?
Yeah.
Go to number 9 then. Request by Alderman Slotnick for a possible 4-way stop condition at the intersection of Parkwood Drive and South Point Road.
For me?
Yep.
Okay,
That's what you got?
right. We'll bring this intersection up on Google Earth so we got an idea on where we're looking. So the intersection in question is on the city's southwest side, very close to the airport. If you zoom out here, you can kind of get an idea of the proximity of South Point Road. Well, you see where the push pin is, that's the actual intersection itself, but you can see 172 is to the south, Packerland Drive, which is also a county highway, is to the east. West Point, actually South Point tees into West Point, then we also have West Mays near this, so I'll give you an idea on the proximity of those roadways to the intersection in question. What you have is South Point Road, which is a collector roadway. That's the primary road right now. It serves as a 2-way stop. Parkwood Drive stops for South Point Road. It's my understanding from the communication from Alderman Slotnick that the request for a stop sign is predominantly speed-based. There are some residents on the corridor that are concerned about speeds on South Point Road. There has been studies conducted along South Point Road with regards to the determination of speed and of truck traffic. This is back in August of 2013. So actually there was 2 locations, one's north and one's south of the actual intersection. So in the northbound direction, north of Parkwood, the 85th percentile speed was 38 miles an hour and a posted 25. What an 85th percentile speed is what the traveling public, that 85% were traveling at that or slower. That means that 15% of the traffic is actually traveling faster than 38. So this is northbound movement north of Parkwood. The 95th percentile speed is 40 miles an hour, and then the 10-mile-an-hour pace speed was between 30 and 40 miles an hour. That means 73% of the traffic was within that speed interval. Similarly, in the southbound direction, 85th was 35 miles an hour, 95th was 39, and the 10-mile-an-hour pace was 25 to 35 miles an hour, and that was 83% of the traffic. South of Parkwood Drive, or south of the intersection, the 85th percentile speed was 35, 95th percentile is 38, 10-mile-an-hour pace 25 to 35, which is 84% of the traffic. Southbound, the 85th percentile speed was 38 miles an hour, 95th percentile was 40 miles an hour, and the 10-mile-an-hour pace was 30 to 40 miles an hour, that was 77% of the traffic. So in essence, what you're getting is, there's, I guess maybe put this into perspective, there are multi-way stops south and north of the intersection. So you see Cormier Road, which as we know leads all the way to Schwaben. That actually, its west terminus is at South Point Road. That's a multi-way stop. Continue north over to Hazelwood, which is actually at that point is not a county route highway, but that's in essence becomes Lombardi Avenue, which goes by Lambeau Field. That also is a multi-way stop condition. So you have roughly about, I believe it's a half a mile without any intersection control. Now what you're seeing with those numbers is that the traffic, let's say in the southbound direction, you're getting a speed, and you do have a downgrade in this area north of the intersection, but the speeds will be slightly lower than what they would be south of the intersection. Conversely, as you're going in the northbound direction, slightly slower here, and it's slightly faster in the northbound direction. So that's really the summary of the speeds out there. We did also survey some truck traffic as well. I do understand in talking with the Alder that some of the complaints are also stemmed with the amount of truck traffic. So the analysis that we conducted, it was actually the same survey. We were able to classify vehicles, and it was roughly about a 5% truck traffic. And this is, we're talking single unit trucks and greater. That would be even up to a tractor trailer with either a single trailer or multi-trailer combination. One thing to also note is that Lamers bus line is actually south of this location. Actually, you can see here in the area with all these buses. So actually, you will see in the morning and at the end of the school day that there's a high amount of bus traffic. That bus traffic is actually legal to be on South Point Road and any road for that matter in the city of Green Bay, based off of our ordinance that allows city buses to drive on any city street as long as the activity is school related. That said, looking at some of the detail of the truck counts, it was evident that there was other than bus traffic that is traveling on South Point Road. The area is covered with a series of no truck signs as well, down at 172 at Cormier, and really around the coordinate area of those main truck routes that I identified earlier on the map. So it's not that the truck drivers don't know by sign that they're not supposed to be on South Point Road. I did do actually even further analysis regarding truck traffic and really where they should be, and this map actually displays it. So this area here in red is actually kind of the south end of South Point Road. So really the only trucks that should be on the roadway would be coming from 172, and that really stops right at Parkwood. So kind of the way I put it to the Alder was that if there's a northbound truck coming through the corridor, it should be turning left or it shouldn't be there. These other areas, you can see this area in orange or yellow, that would be anyone, or if there would be a truck that would be destined to some location, you know, say it's a delivery or a moving van or whatnot. The area in yellow is actually where they should be coming right off of Packerland. On the north, in that area in green, that area, the truck should be accessing via Mason Street or Highway 54. So in essence, that's really the summary of that, of what we documented in the engineering study. Some of the residents may have seen some of the driver feedback signs that were in place, I believe it was in July of this year. That day it came back with very similar results. The numbers are slightly lower, but of course there's a deterring effect when it comes down to driver feedback signs. So they were slightly lower, however they were significantly in excess of the posted speed limit. With that, I guess, you know, really what staff's perspective is when it comes down to the actual request at hand. As many of the commissioners well know, that when it comes down to four-way stop, we would conduct a four-way stop analysis, which is predominantly driven by the volume. And it's not necessarily the volume of traffic on the main street, but it's also inclusive of the volume on the side street. Based off of my knowledge and application of that practice for many years, it's my opinion, preliminary opinion, without actually doing the study, that I don't think this intersection would warrant a four-way stop. And there's reasons why not to install a four-way stop due to other implications, that if the side street traffic is low, over time what happens is that people start blowing the stop sign, and other issues can happen, especially you know, when it comes down to bike traffic and ped traffic. So I guess with regards to the actual request at hand, unless you know, the Traffic Commission wants to see a study done, you know, that certainly could be part of the motion. But I think really the issue at hand here that really needs to be addressed is really the speeds. I think what we're seeing here is a predominant request for reduction in speed. So, and when it comes down to the actual signs, or as I say, the engineering portion of it, not only have we conducted the study, but we've also looked and inventoried in the field. There are a number of speed limit 25-mile-an-hour signs in the area. There's speed reduction signs coming into the corridor, I know from the south. And I talked before about the no truck signs. So I think from the engineering portion of it, I think that actually those items are in place already. So at this point in time, I'd really like to open it up for discussion, see what the other commissioners think, and perhaps if there's any other questions. And obviously, we have a gallery full of people that probably would want to also voice their opinion on the item.
Okay.
Could I make a motion?
Yeah.
To maybe open the floor?
I was gonna say, why don't we listen to Alderman Slotnick first?
Yes. I'd
Get
like
your,
to Make a motion to open the floor.
okay, then we can, let's listen to Alder first, then we can go there. Go ahead, Alder.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think Dave summarized the situation pretty well. What I'm hearing from people is the principal issue is speed, but also the number of, the amount of truck traffic combined with that. This is a street that gets a lot of pedestrian activity in the area, so if we don't find some way, to get compliance with both the truck routes and the speed, somebody's gonna get hurt out there. And as Dave said, there's a number of residents here who live right near that intersection, and I'm sure they'd share their experience with you.
Yep.
Alderman Slotnick, if I could, do you feel that the speed limit at that area is 25 miles an hour? Do you feel that that is a correct speed limit for that area? Do you feel comfortable with that? Or, I mean, you're still saying that the traffic is going fairly quickly. It sounded like 73% of the traffic in the area is pretty good in terms of speed, et cetera. Do you feel comfortable with that? I mean, as far as the
Well,
speed
I
limit?
don't feel uncomfortable with it. I'd have to defer to the traffic engineer for, what the appropriate speed limit ought to be.
I mean, that's a fairly, my children went to Lombardi, and I just remember that being a fairly well-traveled bit of road. So you have the trucks to the south, I can understand the concern there. The school buses, of course, I can understand that as well. Traffic from the school. So there's a number of factors that are building into that fact, and is that considered a minor collector, Dave?
There's no difference between minor or major collector. We have major and minor arterial streets,
Okay, what
which
is-
this is not. This would just be a standard collector.
Okay.
I have sometimes used the term residential collector in some discussions, which is kind of a term that I coined myself, and what I would consider, say, a street like Parkwood is more of a residential collector, because there's other feeder streets that come into it, although it's really not a busy street. It's completely lined with residential properties, where South Point is definitely a collector road that has predominant land use is residential, single family, but you will find pockets of multifamily, and as we had mentioned, there's a school and such along the corridor.
When you look at that though too, I think for the most part with the land use in that, I would think that a good chunk of that area has been developed. I don't think there's really that much more undeveloped area there, is there? It's pretty well filled in. So my feeling is that with the traffic and such that's out there, that what you see now is what you're gonna get. You're not gonna have a whole lot more in terms of with new development or anything like that. I guess my concern is for that truck area to the south. I mean, to me, is it such that they're coming off of Cormier or north from the airport, off of 172, and that they're actually going north to Parkwood to turn around, or what? I didn't quite fully understand that.
I think to answer your question, Alder, is that you're seeing it pretty much used as a through route to some of these other areas for their destination. The one thing that it's probably hard to see on this map, but really the only truck routes in this whole area are the ones really around the area. There is no designated truck routes within this cordon. However, the busiest streets are West Point, which is an east-west corridor, which turns into 9th Street and leads into downtown. Or you have South Point, which really tees in on the north, but it does have a connection to 172. So a lot of the truck traffic, it's my belief, is actually coming from 172, from some of the businesses that may be south of Packerland. You know, it's been noted that there's been some landscaping trucks and so forth that come through there, and they're known to have businesses established south of Packerland. So I think it's a matter of, these are truckers that are just basically coming through there that
Just wanna get
it's
that.
their standard route that they've always been used to, and to be quite frank, unless they haven't seen the signs, I think their chance may not even know they're in violation.
So you have the signs up there saying no trucks at this time?
This entire area you see here is cordoned, yes, with no truck sign.
Well, if they're in there, then they're breaking the ordinance,
That's true.
so. No more questions right
Okay.
now.
I guess the one thing I wanted to add to what you had said, Alder Stoyer, is regarding, you said about the development, it's right, it has been fully developed for some time. I think one of the impacts you're seeing on South Point Road is some of the spillover effects from Highway 41. So when the Highway 41 was closed, you know, I mean, there's still lane closures, of course, on the main corridor that parallels this to the east. I think it was probably from a number of years ago when there were significant closures, such as the Mason Street closure and interchange closures, that a lot of people were just simply avoiding 41 and starting to take parallel routes, such as Packerland and maybe some of the locals of South Point Road. So looking at some of the historic counts prior to the 41 construction, there has been an uptick in the actual daily amount of traffic on South Point. So it has seen an increase, and I don't think necessarily those numbers have dropped yet, but I don't know if we're going to really fully realize it until 41 is completed.
Okay. Anything
Should we
else?
have some citizens?
Yeah, that's what, anything else in Alder? If not, we'll open it up to your constituents.
I'd encourage you to hear from the
Okay,
people.
sure.
I make a motion open the floor.
Have a motion made to suspend rules,
I'll
second,
second.
all in favor?
Aye.
That motion carries, okay. I don't know how many are here for this agenda item, but whoever would like to speak, do we need to come close to the microphone here, Dave? or-
Yeah, it's going to be a little bit difficult. I apologize. We had to go with the projector here. We're normally in a different room, so I guess maybe so we can at least make sure to get you on tape.
Yeah, we're
maybe
gonna-
if
we're
you
taping
wanna-
it, so
Sit
we,
at the table.
Yeah, if you want to come up and just,
so yeah, whoever
we
would
didn't-
like to speak, just come up, your name and your address in the city, and one at a time. Come right up here to the chair, right by this microphone. Oh,
Or just move
The mic and
it.
proper
They should be able to do
location.
that.
Yeah, wow. Actually, why don't we just move this? Can you maybe just point
you
that
can
out?
stand or sit,
Sure.
sir, whatever you choose.
Okay, Maury Steffel, and I live on South Point. And
Your
I think,
address,
Can I get your address?
2084 South
You
Point.
need his name, spell his name, Dave, so you have it for the, just for the record.
Okay, Maury, Maurey, Steffel, Steffel.
Thank you.
And the point, I was just going to ask you if, on your studies or what you have done, if it shows like traffic heavier at a certain time, because, you know, the casino's down there, most of the traffic, a lot of the traffic is for the casino. And I-
Yes, the answer is yes. There's certainly spikes in traffic, and we do have that detail right now. I might even be able to share it with you. Let me just bring up one of these files here, and you kind of get an idea here on. I'm probably just going to go right to the end so you can see the summary. But I don't know if this is. These are the. So you can see during the different hours, this isn't necessarily broken down by for volume. I can get that information, but this actually shows the speeds during the various hours. So you'll be able to see that there's obviously more of an issue of speed during certain
Right.
times of the day.
Because it seems that, I mean, I don't know if people are late to get to casino, but it seems that a lot of people are passing each other on the right or left. Many times, I was doing the leaves the other day, and in the little time I was in front, there were 3 cars, 2 passed on the left side and 1 on the right side. At the time I was out there, because the other ones were going too slow. I think there's such a thing at the casino that if they're late enough times, they get docked 3 days or something. You
You
know.
say employees from the casino?
Employees.
Okay.
Yeah. So I don't know if that has something to do with it or not. I'm just saying that, you know, a lot of traffic happens on.
So one thing
fast.
I'd like to add to a statement there is that South Point Road is actually one of a number of streets in the city that are visually narrowed, meaning it's got a white line on the edge that really divides the travel lane from the parking lane. And the definition of a solid white line means that people are not supposed, motorists are not supposed to cross that line. So when he says that they're crossing in and over that line to the right, that's obviously in violation. And if they're going past people on the left, that's also painted, I believe that's a double yellow.
I would suggest if you can get the license number to write it down.
But I mean, I'm just saying, that's one of the problems, it happens so much, and the speed, and that's what we're just,
Is the speed more of a problem for you or the trucks?
well, the speed is the most problem for us,
Okay.
for me anyway, so. But I'll let someone else talk
Yeah,
about
just
it.
one other question.
Sure.
Trucks, you know what kind of trucks they have? I mean, are they landscaping trucks, or are they going to Lombardi School delivering food, or?
No, just different types of trucks.
Okay, okay.
I never,
That's
not
not-
one type or
That
something.
one, okay, all right.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Okay, next, would like to speak? Thank you. Just your name and address, please, sir.
Len Beekman, 2075 South Point Road. I've been living there for about 19 years. Noticed one of the things is if you know, you gotta remember on Hazelwood, from Hazelwood, it's a hill, and it's human nature. I see these people coming down that hill 50, 60 miles an hour, and it's human nature, and they don't have to stop all the way till Cormier. And I just feel a stop sign at Parkwood. I mean, I know I would stop. I stop at every stop sign. I know your argument is you don't think it would help. I've heard you say that a couple times. You said it, well, a couple years ago. I just think it would be human nature if you see a stop sign, you're gonna slow down. Whether they're gonna stop all the way or not, they're still gonna slow down because they're coming down that hill and they're gaining speed. I mean, a lot of times I'm backing out and they're coming down that hill fast. And I just, you know, I've been there, it's gotten worse and worse over the years. You know, and I know this isn't probably the meeting, but, I mean, there's people, these houses, you gotta remember, they're all in that 180 to 250. And if people can't sell their house because of the speed of the traffic, I mean, the city now is gonna look at people going after property values and seeing if they can get them reduced. Because I've heard a lot of people, you know, one of the reasons they're not buying houses on that road is people are looking at the speed. So, anyway, that's all I have to say.
Okay.
Thank you for your comments.
Hi, Steve Appel, 2087 South Point. I've been trying to sell my house there for 3 years, and 90% of the people that come through, the complaint is speed on the road when they come there to look, and it's getting a little frustrating trying to sell a house where that wasn't the issue when I moved there 18 years ago, and it's changed over the years. The other thing I also noticed is once the stoplights went in on Packerland, that was another thing. I think people are staying away from Packerland because of the stoplights, and they can get a more direct route on South Point,
And Cormier Road?
or Packerland. from-
Pepperland Cormier, you mean?
Yeah,
Okay.
and also the one on Hazelwood. Being that those were placed in, noticed also more traffic and things coming down our road at that point as well.
Any idea where they're going?
I don't know where they're going, I just
Okay.
noticed an increase in traffic, and I don't know if it has anything to do with it, but once those stoplights went in, traffic seemed to increase on our road at that time.
Trucks much of an issue for you, or speed?
For me, it's speed. I mean,
The speed, okay.
for me, I mean, I see the kids walking to and from school, and I see these cars flying down the road. And I don't have kids, but I
Sure.
feel bad for the parents that have their kids walking down that street. And a lot of bike traffic and things like that that are also coming down there. But more than anything, the kids walking down that street. And you got people going 40 miles an hour, and I don't think that's a good thing. I'd like to see it stop before something happens.
Okay, thank you for
Thank
your
you.
comments.
I live on 2083 South Point Road, Mike Paseo. Is there a way for you to pull up on here, West Point?
Yes, yeah, we can. Mike, could you please spell your last name, please?
It's Passehl. I used to live over off of that area there, and in the time that
You want to go by West Point, you said? Right.
I'm on South Point now, but I used to. I know that where the school is located, and if you can show us a picture of that here, in that time, you installed, I don't know how many different stop signs along that road. And a lot of those intersections are not busy. So what is the difference between that and what we're asking for? Because I know that that whole idea there had to be for the same reason, is to slow the traffic down.
Yeah, that was a number of years ago, prior to my time, but,
Okay, but is there any way for you to show us what that would be, or what's there, or how many are?
well, I know from knowledge of the area, so this is where South Point tees in, it's north to West Point Road. Now, you go past Lombardi Middle School to the west, this is at the top of the hill up by the football field, this is Crestwood Springs.
Okay,
That's a multi-way stop.
and there's a hill that goes down right there, is
The
that
hill
not
goes,
correct?
comes down here to Dancing Dunes, and then this is over by Martin Luther King. Now, those two locations, I believe that the reason that those went in was largely related to proximity to school. Like, there's a lot of, as a matter of fact, there's a crossing guard, I believe, at Dancing Dunes and West Point Road in the morning. So there's a lot of child activity, and obviously coming and going
And
to
we
school.
have that as well. I
Right.
mean, as some of these people have expressed, school gets out, these kids are walking down the side of the road. There's no sidewalk there, so they're walking. I mean, in the time that I've lived there, I've lost a mailbox due to somebody, you know, during the slippery time of the year, but still, it's a speed-related situation, you know, so I just think that, I don't see the difference between that road and our road, because I think the same thing was done there to help the situation. So, and neither one of those, I mean, those stop signs weren't there when I lived in that area, and they installed them to slow the traffic down. And they're not busy streets, so what is the difference between that and what we're dealing with? It's to protect the children as well, right? So I just
Yeah.
wanted to bring that up.
Yeah. I got a question.
Oh, hold on, sir.
Thanks, Mike.
Hold on.
Mhm.
Yes, thanks for coming in. You mentioned there's no sidewalks there, which kind of piques my interest as well. You have a school at the north end, you got Cormier to the south. To me, you know, it seems like it would be an area that could use sidewalks. That would take some of the.
I don't think there are any on West Point either, though. There are some on certain, I mean, I think when
Some
you get to the
stretches.
bottom of the
Right.
hill there, I think there are some there, if I remember right.
And
But-
we'd have to look at a map and kind of see where that is, but that piqued my
West Point,
interest,
just
not
for
having a
clarification,
sidewalk.
Sidewalk exists on both sides of West Point Road from King of Arms Drive all the way to the east. I mean, it's continuous.
But there's nothing that you know of on South Point at all?
South Point,
We
no,
don't have
it
any.
exists on South Point up by the school,
Say
and
what-
south
it's a
up
Hazel
until,
terminates it, isn't it?
yeah, okay, so you, really just on the east side, you have it up to Henesser Lane, but on the west side, it goes all the way past the park, and it goes all the way down to Hazelwood, and that's where it
Well,
stops. And
but
there's no
that's-
sidewalk south of there.
I can see that being an issue to have a sidewalk study done as well, because
I don't think we're really after sidewalks, we just are
well,
trying to
maybe not,
slow
but
the
I'm just
traffic
saying,
down, you know?
all right, but I'm just saying that that's something, you know, if you're walking in the street, that's one issue.
But the point I was trying to make is I just think that that's what was done on West Point, was they put those stop signs there to slow the traffic down. And those roads that intersect there are not any different than what we're dealing with on our road. And Parkwood, it's the same type of situation. You understand what I'm saying? So I don't see the difference, and we're trying to achieve the same thing. So that's the point that I'm trying to make. So, think about that.
Thank you.
Okay?
Anybody else who'd like to address? Okay.
Make a motion to close the floor.
Motion been made, second, go back to regular business.
I guess I'd like to ask a question, Dave. I mean, the request was, it looks like you're for a four-way stop. Was there any discussion on a two-way stop at all? I mean,
It currently is a two-way stop.
It is a two-way stop? right
Yeah,
now?
I don't know if you're talking about reversing the stop signs or what, but.
No, I'm just saying that depending on the flow of traffic, you know, if you had them on Parkwood, or would that be one way to solve this issue or not?
Like I said, it's already marked as, or posted as a two-way stop where
It is.
Parkwood, which is the minor road, I mean, it does
Okay.
carry significantly less traffic, so it's the obvious street that would stop in this situation.
Right, well, then the request is they have it on South Point as well.
Mhm.
There are no other stop signs between West Point all the way to Cormier along South Point, correct?
Hazelwood.
Hazelwood.
Three-way stop.
Three-way stop? Okay.
Can anything be said yet, or are we closed?
We'd have to open the floor.
We'd have to open up again. If you have something you want to say, we'd certainly,
I'll make a motion to open
yeah,
the floor.
just give us,
Or unless you,
yeah, we should do that. Motion been made, open the floors. Motion made, second, all in favor.
Just the other thing I wanted to mention in this is because of the heavy traffic that that road is taking, the condition of the road is now no longer as good as it used to be, and there are some severe cracks that have not been taken care of, that these trucks that are not supposed to be using that road, our houses literally shake during those busy times. So if you want to add that to the list of having the road at least taken care of.
What kind of trucks are using the road from your observations?
It's landscaping trucks.
Landscaping
There's-
truck?
What is the name of it? HOW or whatever it is.
Is there one particular company?
That company comes through there a lot. I'm sure they have clients up in the, up in Parkwood or whatever, but it is just simply a road for them to
Okay,
get to their destination. And it's,
okay.
I mean, my question is, how do you guys, you must have run into this before, right? So how do we control that speed limit, other than, I mean, what is the solution to something
Oh.
like this, other than that?
There's a couple different ways. Law enforcement's one thing, I think. I don't know, Carl, if you can speak. Have you had any complaints that you're aware of that there's an issue out there from the police department perspective?
Well, this area specifically, we've had number of complaints in. Traffic engineer living out in that area himself, and we've worked with using radar type of signs to give visual feedback to motorists. That appears to have a halo effect where you will see a reduction in speed of a few miles an hour when people
During that time?
are seeing that sign. But as soon as that sign disappears,
Absolutely.
you see the halo effect disappear, and people go back to what's comfortable for them. My thought on this, and a lot of problems like this, is what needs to be done is you need to remove that comfort zone for people where they feel it's okay to be running through an area like that 10 to 15 miles an hour over the posted speed limit. And predominantly that's just a heavy continuous enforcement in the area until you get some capitulation from those drivers. You know, it's basically they have to surrender their ideology of I can do what I want where I want, and understand that, you know, when you have a regulatory speed posted along the side of a road, there's a reason for it.
Does anybody else want to add anything before we need to go back to regular business?
Thank you.
Anybody had any other comments? Okay. We should go back
motion to
to,
close the floor?
motion been made and second, back to regular business. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. Dave, is there anything, traffic calming methods or anything that you could?
Well, traffic calming is limited to our residential streets, so a street like South Point Road would not qualify. I mean, it really doesn't serve what the function of the roadway is, you know.
Okay.
You know, it is okay, say, for a landscaping truck to come into portions of the street, not use it as a through. So there are segments in there, and we understand that there could be delivery trucks, whatnot, that are gonna traverse it. So to have everyone go over it, that's why it's not in our policy, which was adopted by council, to have any sort of traffic calming applications on a collector roadway. You know, I guess I'll just reiterate what Carl had said. This is a classic example of you really need to have the 3 E's involved here in order to ultimately get that compliance from the motorist. Engineering, education, and enforcement. I've already explained about the engineering, about the signs, payment markings, etc. Those are in place. Engineering as in the study, which has been conducted for speed, that is, and for the trucks. You know, and the thing is that it can be taxing on the agency that has to do the enforcement. And because something like this isn't, you don't necessarily have to have constant enforcement, you just have to have it consistent. So that there's kind of that Rosendale effect, as they say, you know, people go through Rosendale, they know not to speed. I can tell you, every time I've gone through Rosendale on my way to Madison, I don't always see a police officer enforcing speeds, but I slow down because 50% of the time I see one. So it's just, it's not necessarily you gotta have one out there all the time, it's gotta be consistent enforcement. At least for some period of time until the motorist behavior changes. And just like most habits, speed is one of them, you know, but your life coaches say all these things, how do you break habits, how do you create new habits? 90 days is typically what it takes in order to change behavior. So I would say if there was some sort of concerted effort, not every day, not every other day, just some sort of frequency of traffic enforcement of the speed end of the trucks, I think ultimately you will see some change in this area.
Yeah.
Yep.
One of the thoughts I had, I mean, you got winter coming up, so that's gonna cause issues too as far as slipping, sliding and such. And sometimes I think it's hard to get an accurate count during winter time. But, you know, Dave, if you're saying that you could, if there could be, and Lieutenant, if there could be like maybe a 3-month look at something like this and really study that hard, or enforce or do what you have to do in that neighborhood, and find out that after the 3 months that it's going well, that we can continue that route, that'd be one way to look at it. Otherwise, you know, I was kind of trying to listen to Alderman Slotnick, what he had to say about that, if you felt you were deferring to Dave Hanson, but you know, if the neighbors in that felt like the four-way stop was in the order, I don't always travel on that road, but, you know, I'm aware of it, so I'd like to just know if you would feel comfortable with having a period of 3 to 6 months. You know, winter is gonna be tough, but, you know, in the warm weather as well, to really study this issue, look at it from a traffic enforcement method, and just see how the habits are, see after that time period, if everything seems to be that calming, it seems to work. You know, I just was wondering if that's something you would consider.
Well, the difficulty with enforcement is, will it be sustained? And that's what Dave is saying. It's like the Rosendale analogy is a good one. Everybody has gotten so used to seeing enforcement in Rosendale that they're conditioned now to slowing down when they go through that town. So if there's a plan that says we can put enough enforcement out there on a routine enough basis that people get conditioned to the fact that this is a stretch of road where they're quite possibly going to encounter enforcement, that may work, and doing that for a while, you know, might change habits.
Also, these trucking firms that come through, you mentioned 1 or 2 places, or 1 or 2 groups that do that. If they could be alerted to say that, you know, we have an ordinance here, or we need to stay out of that area per se. I mean, I understand if you have a house in the middle of a subdivision that you have to drive there somehow to get there to do the work, but as long as they're not repeating the same path. My thought is that, you know, you got Packerland Drive, take that and then somehow get over. I haven't really thought about it that much, but it seems to me that you have that area to the south that needs to be looked at, you know, a truck-free zone. And that's the one that concerns me. If we could have that monitored strictly somewhat there and see what kind of traffic flow happens over the period, not only the speeding, but also the number of trucks that come through that area, I would like to see that. So,
I guess I'd also like to add, I mean, the point made by the last speaker about how stop signs have been used to control speed on West Point, I thought was a reasonable point. I mean, the Parkwood is not right on top of Packerland. I mean, it's not right on top of Cormier, nor is it on top of Hazelwood. There's a fair amount of distance in between. So I don't think putting a stop sign at Parkwood necessarily would be a bad idea. Although I appreciate that strictly by the rules of traffic engineering, you wouldn't do that. But I think, you know, there's enough space there between those two where I don't think it would be problematic.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I'm going to make a motion to approve of the request and also ask the police department to try to augment traffic enforcement for the next 6 months, or at least, encourage that to occur. Because I personally think that the stop signs will help. It's not going to solve the issue, but if we could get more law enforcement there, that would certainly place the issue in a proper condition, I think. And the problem is that we don't have enough officers out there doing traffic law enforcement. I mean, we're short. You're on the city council, we've got several councils here. Speeding is a problem all over. I'm a president of a neighborhood association on the east side. I have constant complaints of speeding in my neighborhood on the east side. It's a citywide problem, but if we could get some augmentation of law enforcement for the time being, plus the stop signs, maybe we can get the message out there. So that's my motion.
1 second of that, Chuck.
On just a little discussion. My opinion is stop signs should not be used for speed control. We did put 2 in at LeCount and we took them out on West Point. And that just to the west of Dancing Dunes, 2 blocks. And that, so stop signs should not be used for speed control. If there's a 4-way warrant at Parkwood, that should be studied before they put in. Up at Dancing Dunes, because I live in that area over there, Dancing Dunes has a crossing guard morning and afternoon at the school there. There's heavy pedestrian traffic there. There's sidewalks on both sides of West Point. Same with Crestwood, that's between the 2 schools and leads a lot of kids down to the schools there. There's no crossing guard there. There's a 3-way stop on the top of the hill. There's a 3-way stop at South Point and West Point down at Lombardi Middle School. Again, a lot of pedestrians crossing there. Safety of kids is very important. There should be a sidewalk study done, because that sidewalk, because I've seen it where kids are coming south from the middle school or the grade school, they hit Hazelwood, then they jump in the street. There should be a sidewalk study done and safe routes to schools, maybe that might apply for funding or whatever, and that there should be a sidewalk study done. Before a 4-way stop is put up, there should be a 4-way stop study done to make sure it's warranted, because just putting up a stop sign, you don't increase the speed mid-block in between Parkwood and Cormier and Parkwood and Hazelwood. Speeds will go up because people don't feel like they should have had to stop there in that, along those lines there. So, if you're making a motion, Dan, I would also add in there should be a sidewalk study done, or make it as a separate motion.
Well, I would consider that a friendly amendment if that's, but you said you were against putting the stop sign in the first place.
Without a study being done, without a 4-way warrant study, just for speed control, that should be handled by enforcement and education out there. And that's how you get your best compliance. If you put up a stop sign, people will speed up in between the 2 stop signs, or they'll roll right through, and then if you're on the side street, you think that guy's stopping, and you pull out, you still get crunched. And that's a false sense of security from an engineering perspective. So that's just my comments on the situation out here. And I drive that route at least twice a day, because that's my route to and from work. And I've seen the speeds out there and the conditions throughout the course of the year. I've lived out there 22 years now.
Question?
Hold
Dave?
on. Alden, you want to go? Did you have something, Alden?
Yeah, I just want to tell you, Mark, you talked about the winter. Obviously, I was campaigning during the winter out in that area this winter, and I couldn't believe I used to deliver there for UPS years and years ago. And when I got out there, I couldn't believe the difference it was from then till now. The abundance of growth out there, and it was like a speedway for me. When I was on Hazelwood, even parked on the side of the street, when someone called me and wanted to talk to me, or I was out knocking on doors or someone asked for a sign, it was pretty tough even then to get into the lane of traffic. They came fast. I had to ask Tom what the street was, because I couldn't remember it, but I was on Hazelwood, I think it was Hazelwood, and just pulling out of a driveway, and someone turned down Wood, and he was on my butt so fast, and I was easily 3/4 of a block away. And that's how fast they were coming down on me. It scared me, because there was light snow, and I thought he was going to hit me. Parkwood the same way. But when I was on South Point Road, it was even crazier. I was thinking, because there's actually semis that go from 172 that I've seen go down there to obviously Packerland or West Mason or whatever. I've seen them. I've seen big trucks. They're not trailer. They're just big. I'm trying to think what kind of trucks they are.
Straight trucks.
Semis.
Yeah, straight trucks, but they were huge coming down there. I seen one turn off of Hazelwood going down Lombardi. I followed them because I was done for that day. I didn't find too many people home, unluckily, but obviously. But the people I did talk to, the speed was a grave concern. I know that at one time, we just had the two-way stop on Newberry and Bader, and now it's a four-way stop, and believe me, I think it really helped. It put the people at ease. And I think the study you're looking for, Dave already did that study.
He said he did not do
But-
full
Yeah.
study, but
For
just-
clarity, just so you know, this intersection has been studied in the
Yes.
past.
Yeah,
But the last one that I could find was actually 20 years ago.
okay.
So
Okay,
those numbers
you're-
are obviously antiquated. I mean, there's roads like Shelter
Yeah.
Creek Road, and, the whole area to the west has developed since.
Well-
So the numbers will be higher.
But on the positive side, I know that the traffic unit was taken out of the police force, but now they're this close on negotiating.
They actually approved it today.
Yeah, I was just gonna say I didn't wanna say that because they're in, and I heard, but I wanted someone else to announce it. They actually approved it, and that's gonna make a huge difference for how we can target an area where you can see them lined up and boom, 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 they can concentrate. Like Commissioner Atheno had said, it's all over Green Bay. So they're gonna get the heaviest. I know I have a lot of spots that need it. Alderman Duane, obviously.
Talk to anybody in the city, they're gonna tell you the same thing.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So this type of thing is really gonna help. I mean, for the people here, we do have this finalized, and that's gonna be a huge part, but I'm telling you, is for the 3 days I was out there, it's a fast-paced area. I couldn't believe it was 25, because they were going 40, 50 miles an hour. They were flying by me. I backed in the driveways when I could finally back in, because I wasn't gonna pull out anymore, backing out, because that guy came up on me so fast, I didn't even see him, and I looked. So I just want to give my
Yeah,
perspective
thank you.
of winter.
Dave, did you have something you want to
Yeah,
add?
just two things. I just want to reiterate before a second on the motion is made on what Commissioner Carroll had stated regarding having at least on file the study for a four-way stop. Like it was mentioned that we looked at one from 20 years ago and the numbers were lower and the criteria was even different back then. However, I think at least to have something on file to show what that condition is today, I think would be beneficial. And number two, this is in a very non-traffic engineering perspective, I'll give right here is that having a four-way stop next to your house isn't the greatest thing either, because one thing that I've heard from people where they have been installed is that they complain of the noise, because you may have thousands of vehicles on that road, but guess what? And South Point, you're looking at 5,000 vehicles a day. There's a lot of vehicles in this street. And to have all 5,000 of them have to stop, and we're talking about the truck traffic that's on the Grand, we want to reduce it. However, you can hear brakes squealing and you can hear acceleration. I mean, you think motorcycles are a problem in the summer. I mean, imagine all of these vehicles having to stop and then accelerate right next to these homes. So it's just one of these things where I understand it's a speed perception directly in front of the house, and yes, that will reduce the speeds, no doubt about it. But in the summertime, be prepared to close windows because the noise goes up.
On top of backing out of your driveway if you're close to the stop signs. So whoever lives close to the stop signs.
Yeah, but isn't a little bit of this what we're talking about is speed control, where you
hold
We
on.
gotta open, we gotta
Okay.
open, we gotta open the floor.
We've got a motion.
Yeah, we got orders we have to follow for speaking. We'll let you speak, so hold on a second. Do you have a motion to,
I'll open the floor.
motion made, seconded, open the floor again? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion
You talk
carries.
about, okay, you talk about having more police officers or whatever regulating that area. And what will that do? Break the habit, is what you said, right? That's gonna deter them from speeding, because you consciously know a road that you travel all the time, that 50% of the time there's somebody there watching you. so you slow down, okay? So you're breaking a habit, correct? So if we put a stop sign there, because this has become an escape route for many people, we're gonna break their habit. They're not going to use that because it no longer is that convenience, correct? I don't wanna stop. I don't wanna have to stop when I'm coming down that hill and wear my brakes out. I mean, as stupid as that may sound. So I'm not gonna use that route anymore. We're gonna go to Packerland, which is the correct route, 4 lanes there to use it, which they're escaping that because of the stoplights that have been put in there. So, I guess I'm not following the logic here. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I mean, I don't understand, you know, you're talking about having, you know, having it watched for a while to break their habit. What's the difference here? Somebody say something, because I mean, I
Can
don't
I
get
throw
it.
something in? Matt?
Go ahead, yep,
Uh,
anybody can say, we're open,
Well,
so.
okay, I take Packerland quite often, and I remember before the traffic light would go in, depending on the, early in the morning or later in the afternoon, you had to stop, you know, I was like 2 to 3 blocks back of that stop sign. So, inch your way forward, so is that better than traffic light? I would say that traffic light probably has improved that, to me, because, you know, I would try to avoid that area at all costs, because it's
But
just
that's my
such a
point.
concentrated area. So now people are looking for other alternative routes. I think the traffic light there helps. I would really, you know, depending on how this motion goes forward, I'm looking at the traffic of the trucks in that area to the south. I agree with Charles on the fact that stop signs should not be, they should be used for what they're used for, not a traffic slowing device. You stop or you don't stop, you know, that, I don't agree with what some folks do that way.
I would like to address your question, because it's a very valid point, and it's one that we get oftentimes in these discussions. The answer is both. What do I mean by both? Yeah, you are accomplishing, you're trying to change motor behavior by addition of a stop sign. You're also trying to adjust behavior by consistent enforcement. If indeed we're talking that there's some sort of an agreement with the traffic enforcement, I can tell you from firsthand experience by being here at the city, when there was a dedicated traffic unit, there was a difference. There was a difference. Now that things aren't as solid as they were, yeah, things have changed. Things have probably, people get accustomed to knowing that there's not this presence of enforcement. So at the end of the day, what I'm hearing is speed is the issue, and I see that there's 2 ways of doing it. Like you said, stop sign, deter that
Break
route
the
through
habit.
there. Break the habit, and break the habit with consistent enforcement. Now, the thing is that the consistent enforcement portion of it, granted, it's gonna take resources to do that if they're available, and when you use them, you're gonna get it done while maintaining the traffic flow on the street, keeping the noise down, etc. Now, what happens in an unwarranted stop sign situation, and I know I've shared this study with the commissioners at some time, obviously not with people in the gallery, but there was a study by a fellow ITE member, Institute of Transportation Engineers, a group I'm part of, that conducted he just gathered all of these studies from around the nation. I believe it was like 70+ studies that went into the before and after effects of installing unwarranted multi-way stop signs. And what they find out is that immediately you'll see a change. You know, exactly what you're talking about, that behavior changes, and you know, some people may get deterred off that route. What you happen to see over time is that you're gonna see, and it's normally during the non-peak hours, because that's when there's not that side street traffic. What they do is they drive the main road, in this case South Point, they don't see any traffic on the side streets, and they become accustomed to being able to do what's called the California cruise, or blowing the stop sign, whatever you want to call it. They roll through it. Now, my concern, and I've heard it many times tonight, is about the pedestrians, and we were even talking about a sidewalk study out of this location. We don't have any documented pedestrian crashes along this corridor that I'm aware of.
We don't have what?
Any pedestrian crashes, as in vehicle pedestrian crashes. We don't have any of those that I'm aware of based off of my...
Wait a minute.
Yeah, there was a.
We do.
We do.
Right here.
Okay, well, then maybe I'm mistaken here. What I'm getting at is that that could actually get worse then, because what ends up happening is when you get people that start blowing the stop signs, that's when you get people that think that people are gonna stop. They think that they have the right of way in crosswalks, and then they get hit.
But I believe that if we're working at achieving a goal here, which is to break their habit, there isn't anybody that is sitting here right now that isn't willing to put up with that noise of brakes or have a difficulty getting out of their driveway because of what we've done. We're willing to go through that pain to eliminate this problem and break their habit to get them going back to 41 or Packerland where they belong. And that's what we're trying to achieve. I don't think that any of us here are gonna have a problem with listening to brake noise for a while, or, you know, if they're blowing that if they're blowing that stop sign, then we need to have somebody there during those peak times to enforce that. I mean, we're talking, you know, on their way to work, on their way home. I went to the bank the other night down Cormier, and there were 2 policemen there. And I thought, gosh, what do I have to do to get one of them to come to my street? Do I have to call all the time, you know, and complain about it? And I can't believe that in the amount of time that I've lived there, how that has deteriorated. And luckily, there's been no loss of life, but that is gonna happen. And then what do we have to do? We have to come back and do this again? It just seems senseless. I mean, this summer, Maury backed out of his driveway and got slammed into. And I've lost a mailbox. They're on the side of this, way out where they don't belong. And that's due to a speed problem. So I don't understand this. I didn't realize that this was going to be this kind of a challenge. It doesn't make sense to me.
Okay, well, thank you for your opinions, and there's a certain protocol to follow, which everybody understands totally.
I'm sorry.
But, that's fine. Let's go back.
Motion.
Does anybody else want to speak? Because this is the last
This,
call, so we need to move on. Anybody else? Nobody? Okay.
the motion to close the floor.
Motion made, seconded, all in favor?
All right,
Motion carries.
What was that motion again?
Yeah, go ahead. Motion, Dan.
the motion was to approve of the request, but also to request augmented law enforcement for a period of 6 months to see if we can solve this problem.
Traffic would do first.
So you're asking for stop signs?
I would recommend a stop sign.
Okay. All right.
I got just one question. Dave, you were saying that, I mean, as far as a traffic study to do, you know, how long, I mean, what time period are you normally looking at over how long a period of time?
Typically, our counts are done for a full week. We like to get weekday and weekend information. This would be a matter of setting out road tubes, and that collects all the data. I mean, I don't have any of them out right now. I could get them out there immediately if need be.
Well,
So by the next meeting, we would have that information.
Yes.
I mean, I'd feel more comfortable to have that study done first.
It's
Before
been
we
20
move
years.
ahead for a stop sign. I mean, I understand where the citizens are coming from, but I think just for the fact that we haven't had a study in 20 years over there, I would feel more comfortable seeing a study done, or soon, you know, before the snow flies, if we could.
Yeah, I've been checking the forecast, and I think we're all clear for the next week, so. I thought I saw a snowflake on Friday, but that somehow went away.
Well, that would be my request.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Chairman, I would withdraw my original motion and move that we put this on the agenda for the next meeting after a traffic study has been done.
So can I interpret that as a refer to staff for study?
Yeah.
With some enforcement.
Yeah, what about,
Start right away.
I'll make a request to the district captain out there to
Okay.
step up enforcement in that area.
Hold on, just,
Folks,
Quiet.
you can't hear up here.
so was that motion?
Motion
was
would be-
refer to staff for study, but Carl, that was not in addition to that motion, right?
Yeah,
That's in addition to.
It's in addition to it?
Yeah.
So refer to study plus speed and truck enforcement, is that what I understand?
Right.
Correct.
could we have,
Recommended to district captain.
Correct.
And
somebody
then- and then-
knows the trucking, the company, if it's one habitual offender, maybe you can let your alderman know, or the city know, and we can contact that.
Matt, if I could address that really
Sure.
quick, just to everyone in the gallery. I've got some business cards with me, I'll put on the table up here. If you see trucks out in the area that are off the truck route, give me a call. If I don't answer, leave me a message, I'll call you back. But I found it's very useful and pretty effective if you know the name of the company, or if you can get a license plate off the vehicle and I can identify the company, I'll just go direct with them and I'll discuss the issue with them and tell them point blank, the next time I get a complaint on one of your vehicles off the truck route, I'm gonna send a guy out to cite your driver. Okay? It's been very effective with a lot of trucking companies in town. I don't mind doing it. It takes me 20, 30 minutes of phone conversations, and usually the company will talk with their drivers and that resolves the problem. So at least that part of the problem that we can address right away, and I can give you guys a tool that you can address with it, so.
I was just wondering, why can't have trucks that we talk about that are illegal to go on there? I mean, so I'm not calling.
Yeah, it's gonna be, basically what it's called is, we call them, is it 2-axle, 4-ton trucks. So it's basically, in layman's term, like a box van, bigger.
Oh,
But, I mean, obviously, having the reports of semi-tractor trailers, okay, I guess the cover's been blown, I live on South Point. I saw, even this morning, a little boy with an excavator on it, right before I went to work. I mean, it was like, it's at point on South Point, shouldn't be.
I agree with you, Carl. In my district alone, I communicated with the company that was making loud noise at 4 in the morning, and it was very effective. They shut their engines off. So if you work with them.
A lot of times they're more than happy to work with you. They don't know the problems. Excuse me. They don't know that the problem's actually going on. Once
The
they're
biggest
made aware
shock out
of
of all this is Lamers is one of the biggest offenders during those important times of the day. And that.
And depending what they're running for vehicles there, I mean, if they're running tour buses up and down the street that are not going to
There's
schools.
school buses going up the hill there, they're not even following the speed limit. And that just doesn't make any sense because of all people,
You have a neighborhood association?
I'm sorry.
Do you have a neighborhood association out there?
There's not.
Okay, I was gonna say, if you had an association, you might wanna go talk to neighbors and say, we live in the area. You're offending our quality of life by your buses speeding. I'm sure they don't want their buses speeding up and down there. I don't know, I'm only going by what you're saying. I don't think they'd want them speeding, so. But
Yeah, I was just gonna say,
Yes, but not under the guise of representing your neighborhood association. I would be representing the police department. I have a complaint that is such and such. Okay?
you have something else?
Trying to get over.
no, I just want to say, using the associations, it really can cause problems within each other. I always have my guys call me, let me know. We'll get the right person there, the police or whatever. Because I've had it a couple of times where the association went and tried to do something on their own, and they got in big trouble. I mean, it's not done properly.
I'm sure there's a way to do it.
Approachment,
right.
yeah, and so I've had every police officer tell me, and at this associations, call us, let us do it. I mean, the association can call the police like
Sure.
Okay,
Commissioner Dino, but don't take it upon yourself to call it to settle a problem.
all right,
Yeah.
go ahead, Chuck.
Dan, would you be open to an amendment of your motion to add the sidewalk study?
Yes, that would be fine.
Okay, thank you.
So can we do the motion one more
All
time?
right, so you wanna,
You want me to
read back what you got, Dave?
Alan's been writing it down.
Okay, so this is what I am gathering at this point. You are referring to staff for a 4-way stop study and a sidewalk study, in addition to police department enforcement of speed and truck traffic along South Point between Cormier and Hazelwood.
Yeah.
For the time periods that we want to accentuate on that or not?
No, I think it was agreed that the study at least would come back at the next meeting.
we may not
I guess
have a December
I'll bring this up right now. Historically, we've canceled the December meeting, so if you want this back at the next meeting, it would be January. Historically, we cancel that meeting. Now, that's up to the discretion of the traffic commission if they'd like to meet in December.
I think it's important that we meet only because it's not, this is important in this area, but my district, I have issues as well. So I think this is kind of a nice way to look at not only this particular area, but also other areas of the city. So I'd like to see a meeting in December to deal with, take care of that.
Okay, well, we'll solidify that date then at the end. right?
Okay, that's fine. Let's, so we have a motion made. Do we understand the motion here? So do we hear a second then?
I'll second it.
Motion made, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you, everybody, tonight for your input.
Thank you.
Let's move on to number 5. Request by Alderman Tim DeWayne to reconsider using the stop for pedestrians within crosswalk signs within the city.
Okay, just for clarification on this item, just want to make it known that, and I'm not, it may just be a, you know, and Alderman Tim Duane and I talked about this regarding state law, that we are a yield to ped state, not a stop to ped state. So, at least technically, the way that this is written, stop for pedestrians sign is actually not allowed by state statute in the city. I can tell you that Assembly Bill 491 is currently under consideration to change the state law from a yield to ped state to a stop to ped state. As a matter of fact, I had a meeting with Representative Eric Genrich regarding this, and it is my opinion and other staff's opinion that we'll most likely be supporting that legislation and offer any help that they have requested. But that aside, this request, I guess, is really with regards to what we call the in-street pedestrian crossing sign. Those are the ones that you'll see typically on center lines. They'll say state law, yield to pedestrians or stop to pedestrians within the street, and they're at marked and designated crosswalks. The city's policy has been on these signs not to use them as permanent installations, as in look for other methods of signing and marking that may not have actually been considered prior to installing an in-street sign. The predominant reason that we don't allow full-time installation of these signs is for our winter conditions and for snow plowing considerations. Our operations division doesn't want to be collecting up these signs, and they're not exactly cheap. So that's probably the primary reason. The other one is they are highly susceptible to knockdown and to turning movements from vehicles, especially if you'd have one that, when we were talking about trucks, if trucks would turn and potentially clip these signs. The signs are required to be breakaway or crash-worthy in nature, which does lead to somewhat of an increased cost. They roughly are, for a decent, well-built sign that meets you know, the retroreflectivity characteristics that we look for in the sign, roughly around $500 for a double-sided sign.
Wow.
So, but that includes the pedestal, and like I said, it's made to be knocked down and spring back up. So, I mean, that's just what they cost when you get them from a reputable manufacturer. The other reason that we've not allowed them on permanent installations is it somewhat draws back to a quality of life and the image that our city portrays, is that if you look around some of the other communities that have them, oftentimes they are not maintained. They're so beat up and scratched, and you can't even read what they say sometimes. And we really don't want to have these signs be out there, and we find out a little bit later that they're damaged and they just become this attractive nuisance in the street. Now, that being said, we do actually allow them. We do have them at some locations within the city. Those are predominantly used near schools. I know we've got some up at Preble. We've got one over by Franklin Middle School at a mid-block location that was installed a couple of years ago. And what we've done is we've worked with the school to purchase, install, and remove these crosswalk signs at the time when they're needed. Because what we have found out through various studies, one being I believe it's Boulder City, Colorado. They actually had a very in-depth study done and a recommended policy on these signs, that they basically come to the conclusion that they're not effective unless you have a relatively high volume of pedestrians crossing the street. So other measures should be considered before adding that sign. But like I said, we've worked through this with predominantly the schools, and we've allowed the installation. Granted that they're put out at the beginning of school, they can be left out during the duration of school, and then removed thereafter. So we certainly are open-minded to using the sign. We just certainly want to be able to make sure that they're being used in the right place. That's all I
Well,
really have on the
Do we
item.
have a
Chairman.
vote now?
Yeah, Alder, do you want to speak to the request?
Yeah, thank you, committee members. I had our law department draft this up. Carl, you don't need one because you're a law enforcement officer. But this is Wisconsin statutes that are municipal code 346. Yield needs to stop if there's a pedestrian in the crosswalk or even a vehicle. So I just wanted to
But the sign wouldn't say that, the sign would say yield.
yield. Yeah, yes. But the main reason I'm bringing this forward for the second time, and Alderman Stoyer brought this in 2013, and I don't know how many other times this was brought forward. Dave, you would know more than that than me, or maybe even Tommy. But I fielded many calls from my constituents, not just in one ward, but all 4 wards. It's a safe route to school issue. I'm not asking that we put these throughout the city of Green Bay at every corner or intersection. But just last week, we had an individual, a young guy, crossing Bellevue at East Mason, and he was struck by a car. And he was knocked down, and people had to take him and put him on the sidewalk and take care of him. Mainly just a safe route to school. I know that when I'm driving in other municipalities and I see a pedestrian crosswalking sign, it's very noticeable, and therefore I know that somebody's could be coming through that area. And I'll give you a good example. That area that needs one is Eliza at Monroe Street. This would benefit our children, our parents. I'll give you one more example. 2 weeks ago, we had a fella bringing his kid to school at Alva Leopold, and a speeder, they were in the crosswalk, and a speeder actually ran the dog over and killed him, and it almost pulled him underneath. As far as putting these in permanent places, I do have one area that I would like to see put in at medians where there's a safe route to school. I want these to be, for instance, at Eliza Street, picked up, portable style. And Dave, we talked at length, and I think you're on board with it, mostly. So I'm asking you, committee members, to not deny this request. And if the verbiage is wrong on a stop, replace it with yield, because obviously he said it's prohibited, which.
Is that wrong on Monroe and Webster, both, or just anywhere in your area?
The portable ones I would like to see implemented at Eliza and Monroe Street. The permanent would be in the median at Grignon and South Webster. That's 2 areas that I'm looking at right now. And I'd like to ask you, Dave, I've never seen one of these in the city of Green Bay. When were they implemented?
One for Laura Lane was done, I believe it was early 2014. That consisted of probably about a year's worth of discussion with the school district in order to get their infrastructure in place to be accommodating to the mid-block crossing. So what they did is they installed some fencing on site to basically try to funnel the children to this crossing location. It is mid-block in nature, so as we know, mid-block is, I always want to bring more attention to a crosswalk that is mid-block and not at an intersection. So we worked with them to get their items in place, and then they came back to us and said, hey, we got everything in place. Now it's time for you to hold up your end of the agreement, and we did. We marked and signed it, and they actually bought the sign, and like I said, they put it there at the beginning of the date and take it out. And they maintain the sign, and we allow that to happen. The other one is over on town in your district, over by Provo High School, over on Dams and
There.
Bader. It is.
Now, I put this request in about a year ago, same time. How did he get one and I didn't?
He's got more seniority on city council.
Yeah.
So who put the communication in, the popular majority over there, or?
Well, these signs they don't necessarily have to be ordered in by council or traffic commission. These are at the discretion of staff to put these in, just like we maintain, I mean, you'll read it right in the ordinance book about crosswalks, that traffic engineers are responsible for all crosswalks and which ones go in, which don't go in. That's actually not part of state statute, obviously. I know that's what you were referring to before, but it's city code. But, so these can go in, like I said, I work with the schools, I work with the elected officials, and then we work out a plan to get this in place. So that's really all we did in our Tom and your situation, and then over with Franklin Middle School in that district.
So we have to take these individually with the traffic department?
Yeah, in the case, I believe what you're talking about, like with the temporary sign over at Monroe and Eliza, this would simply be the school staff, and I know they have school staff that are out there monitoring the situation and the parking and so forth, and the pickup and drop off. It's really just a simple matter of the school dedicating one staff person to actually go and move that sign out into the street and leave it there for the duration of the day, and then once the school day is over and all the kids have gone home, then they pick it up.
Well, okay, and I want to go back to the pedestrian crosswalking sign that we put out there in 2014. That wasn't allowed, so is it?
Oh, yeah. No, I'm glad you brought that up. As you may know, that there was, like I said, about a year ago, a similar sign installation that went in. Early on in this discussion, I mentioned that it needs to be a bounce-back style type sign, and also crash-worthy. The sign that actually went out was not. So it was actually a non-compliant sign, as in it was non-breakaway, so if there would have been a motorist on Monroe Avenue, and as we know, that's a major arterial street, that sign became highly susceptible to getting hit, and if it would have gotten hit, that could have created a potential liability to the city. I can tell you early on in my traffic engineering career at the city, there was a similar style sign, actually it was more obtrusive, but similar nature in that it was not crash-worthy. They used to be called crossing guard buddies. You may have heard of those. What they were wheeled out by the school, and they literally were kind of a welded together tire rim and post that was placed in the street. We did actually have a claim to the city due to a person hitting one of those on Shawano Avenue. That being said, once that happened, that was when we actively sought to have the removal of that device, or at least have something in its place that would be compliant and crash-worthy in order to reduce the liability to the city.
Where was that, Dave? On Shawano or what?
For West High School, there was in Shawano Avenue, they used to use the crossing guard buddies. So that was, it wasn't the crosswalk sign that you were per se referring to, but it was actually the school speed limit 15 is what it was.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I don't know if the Alder or Dave wants to answer this. I'm a little confused as to what the request is. Are you requesting a policy change here, or are you requesting that these signs be put in specific spots?
My understanding, the last time I put this communication in, these were prohibited within the city of Green Bay. And now I'm hearing,
He's saying no, right?
Yeah, and I don't know all the specifics. I recall it, the discussion being a traffic commission. We may have actually said no to the specific item that was out there, which was non-compliant, which is probably why we said that device was not allowed. That's my presumption, and we can look back at the minutes if you'd like. But.
okay, well, no, that's not necessary. I mean, I just want you to make the right decision. It's going to benefit us. And just be aware that the number of crossing guards have been reduced in the past, as well as the number of traffic unit deployments are very much down over the past years.
But
This would just be an alternative.
you could make a request to Dave to get a sign in a specific location, can't you?
So I would have to go to traffic, put a communication in every time I need one? Is that what you're saying?
Well, I discussed it before when we talked about those other two. I mean, that didn't even come through traffic, doesn't need to come through traffic. In this case, and I think I pretty much made myself clear on this, is that this would be an item that we would consider if it met the terms of our conditions, which is that the school would own the sign, and they would place it and remove it for the school duration. We would be accepting of those terms.
That's the only criteria? Oh, it's,
For this location, but I mean, this isn't gonna be a blanket location. We do look at every one specifically, so, I could easily see a receive and place on file on this request. You and I have a discussion tomorrow. We go talk to Kate Sturks, who's the Dean of Students over at Aldo Leopold, and we could be working out an agreement here and get one at that location.
Are you asking for specific schools or just in generality? That's why I'm a little confused.
well, you gotta remember, my district is bordering Alloway, Bellevue, and Green Bay. So I'm getting high speeds coming in at Webster Street, Baird, Bellevue, and South Monroe. So I'm asking one on South Monroe and one on South Baird,
For in a school district, in a school zone.
or near a school district, yes.
Okay.
And the one on South Webster would be permanent, just like they do in Alloway. Ashwaubenon, Deep Ear, it would be in the median. So there's already signs there. You know, keep on one side or the other. But they're very noticeable, and I think this would decrease the speeding and the awareness of the crosswalk.
So in those two scenarios, Dave, is that something should come to you on? Is that what you're suggesting?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. I mean, you could address it here tonight if you'd like. But like I said, our policy remains the same, where we do consider them on a case-by-case basis, as long as we know that there is someone to procure the sign and maintain the sign. We just want to know the location.
Hey Dave, I got one question for the alder. You said there's already signs in the median today?
Not pedestrian crosswalk.
No,
like
no,
a-
but there
yes,
is a sign there?
yes.
Why can't one be mounted on the post that's already there?
Right.
Instead of having the one that's on the base in the middle of the road, just put one up on the middle, because I agree with the permanent situation with the winter operations,
Right.
they'll just get beat up. But if if there's a median out there today with a keep right sign on it or whatever, why can't we add on the backside, yield to pedestrians? And that way you don't have to worry about somebody wheeling it out, picking it up, wheeling it back, it's there.
Right. Yeah, and that location, I know that at Traffic Commission, we've dealt with that probably, it's been a while, I think it was 5 years ago at least, probably when Tony was the elder in the district. And at that time, we did make some modifications to that location. There are flashing beacons at it that run 24/7 at Webster Grinion. And we did make some modifications to sign height, because one of the things that I observed at the location is that we had some substandard sign height that was actually obscuring the view of potential view of a pedestrian by a motorist. In this case, I think what you're talking about, Chuck, is that you would place one, say, at the base of that post and keep the keep right sign still mounted where it is that correct?
Just look at the site and see if it's feasible to put it on a post that's already out there,
Right.
instead of having something in the pavement that gets hit and everything. I mean, if you drive through the ones in De Pere, they're all beat up and scuffed up, and
I've seen them.
it narrows up the lane and causes other issues besides just trying to get people to yield for pedestrians. But if there's physical room in the median right now where there's not pavement, you've got a sign there to keep right, make use of it, that territory for the sign without blocking vision for pedestrians and or motorists. You're still getting the sign out there that you're trying to reinforce the habit that you gotta yield for pedestrians.
Hey, committee, I can assure you that the portable sign would be removed every day. And Dave, let's go over the time frame when we could put those out, as criteria.
Yeah, right, because again, in the winter months, that's where we're gonna have an issue. I mean, we probably would have it as in, whenever the first snow fly, which could be any day, all the way through when really our snow removal operation is done. Because we don't want to have those signs out in December, Christmas time, there's snow on the ground, even during that time. I mean, even these other communities, I mean, they even get rid of them as well. They don't put them in the street for that very reason.
So in a way, would it be okay if we receive and place that file and you and Dave?
That's fine.
Before, we have some folks that want
Oh,
to speak
did
on
you
this. Can we open the floor?
Sure.
I make a motion to open the floor.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Did you wish to speak to
Or
this
you-
item?
I thought you wanted to say something.
Which one?
Well, the
We're on
speed-
number 5.
Or, I'm sorry,
Usually
we're,
for
which one are you?
number-
I thought I asked.
I'm 8.
You're
Oh,
eight.
okay.
It's speed related.
Okay, all right.
So we're closing the floor?
Move to close.
Okay, the motion been made,
Second.
seconded, all in favor, we're back to regular business, so,
Mr. Chairman, I'd move that we receive and put on file request number 5.
does that work, Alderman?
Yeah.
We do that, and then you give it Dave?
Yes.
Okay. all
I'll
right.
second it.
Motion been made, seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay? Yeah. Let's go to, since all the recycling's here, do you have somebody to speak to number 8? Well, go to number 8, so. Request by Alderman Slating to enforce the speed limit on the 2600 block of West Point Road.
Actually, I was gonna just defer to Lieutenant Ackerman on this one since it's a request for speed enforcement, so. I don't have any speed data to share, so.
I can open this up if you want.
Okay, if you wanna. You do.
This is,
Go ahead, Alderman.
Don't you think?
in my experience, in my 3 years, 4 years on the city council, this is the street in my district that probably has the longest and most continual history of speed problems. And Lieutenant recalls that we've talked about enforcement out there before, and the experience that we see is when the enforcement is out there, the speeds are affected, they become somewhat depressed, but once the enforcement is withdrawn, they come back up again. And there are some neighbors here that will speak to that.
What part of West Point are you?
This is the part of West Point, west of Packerland.
Well, stop signs are Dancing Dude and,
I think this is the first block.
This is really from Packerland to South Point.
South Point, okay.
That
That
stretch,
was that. Okay.
pretty long stretch, and I know you don't use stop signs for speed control, but pretty long stretch, no stop in between there, people get rolling, and I think maybe we can hear from
Sure.
the
Make
from
a
the
motion to
residents
open the
as to
floor.
whether it's principally a east to west or a west to east speed issue, but
Okay.
Make a motion to open the floor.
Motion been made, seconded,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Motion to open the floor up, so,
Now we can-
yes, sir, or ma'am, if you'd like to speak, just come by the microphone, or,
I can just step.
okay, just your name and your address.
Yes. Is that the microphone?
Yeah.
I'll step in. It's, my name is Jeffrey Bunker. I live at 2673 West Point Road. And that was pretty much how he described it. If you take South Point to Packerland, that area in there is probably, I mean, that's where I live, so that's the area I know. So I guess my first request, I guess, would be to get traffic data on that. I don't know, you said you didn't have any for this evening.
Right. Is it,
Um,
Lieutenant Ackerman actually has some speed board feedback, it looks like, so this is gonna be slightly different than the type of information I collect, but
This
very
would have been
similar.
from last summer. I had run speed boards out in 2600 block
Mhm.
for about a week.
For about
This
a
is the
week,
data
yeah,
from-
I remember that.
Excuse me. This is the data from that deployment to those boards.
Okay.
But now what I'm seeing out there right now, the posted speed limit of 25, you've got an average speed 24.66, 50th percentile is 25.9, 85th percentile is 30.39, with a pace speed of 27 to 36. While the signs are out there, maximum speed that was recorded was 54, and the minimum was 5. And then you're looking at an average daily volume of 2976.8, and a total volume for this one, and this is just one direction, which should be westbound, was 18,949 over a period of, looks like 6 days.
Okay.
So,
So the average, what was the average speed?
the average speed's 24.66. Probably the more important one you want to look at is the 85th percentile, which was 30.39.
Well, I mean, even that average speed, how could the average speed be below the posted?
Because some vehicles coming through there are.
Well, I know where you had the sign.
Coming
And you were taking-
from an area of stop signs,
Yeah, you were taking,
so it's going to aggregate the zeros moving
Yeah.
up, so.
so, but you actually had somebody going 54 miles an hour from from Packerland.
Right, and you gotta
Heading west.
keep in mind too, though, when I throw that number out there every once in a while, I get numbers that surprise me, and I go back and do a little research, and more often than not, when I see numbers that high, they're usually emergency vehicles.
Okay, well,
Not always, but
not
usually.
always, but I can tell you that I probably observed a vehicle, let's see. You know, and I don't want to confuse the issue with anecdotal data, but that's why I would request maybe some additional data be done there, if that's what needs to occur. And I don't want to spend a lot of time here, because it does seem that we're going to address the issue of speed within the city
Yes.
by dedicated force. And I appreciate that. I've lived at that address for 22 years, so I have some, and speed has always been an issue on
Yep.
that street. And I can remember when there was a dedicated force, and they put an officer out there, and again, this is just anecdotal, but I sat out there one day when he was out there, and he literally would pull out, write a ticket, move back in, get in position, and 30 seconds later, he was back out again. And so I can appreciate the fact that, you know, there's the discussion about the 3 E's, the engineering, the education, and the enforcement. I'd be most concerned about those two, the education and the enforcement. I mean, and I wrote this comment down too, consistent enforcement. When I did contact Alderman Slottick in the spring of this year, we had sporadic enforcement during what looks like about a week in April. That, you know, that somebody was out there, and yes, you get that. I'm not sure who mentioned the halo effect, but it is out there. You know, you do get a little but the minute that vehicle is no longer there, the speeds go right up. So I wrote this comment down as well, is Green Bay needs to become Rosendale. Until it becomes known that you cannot speed in the city of Green Bay, you will get speeding in the city of Green Bay. There's just no two ways about it.
No argument here.
Yeah, I mean, and having a dedicated traffic patrol officers in the city is a start, but that's not the answer. We need officers that are willing to pull over violators when they see them, and not wait and say that that's the traffic patrol officer's responsibility. And that's what I see, because when I think about it, and I didn't know that this article was going to come out, but this article was from the Sunday, October 25th, and I'm sure you're probably all aware of this article, but it's the one that got my interest peaked. And then I called Alderman Slottick the day I witnessed a Green Bay patrol officer cruise by my house heading west on West Point Road, exceeding the speed limit. Again, I don't have radar, but at least by conservatively 10 miles an hour while on their phone. And then I stepped out of my house and watched that vehicle, because I thought they may be responding to some call. So I stepped out and then watched that officer take a left on South Point casually again. So that's the kind of thing that I see way too often on my street, is those kinds of things. So if we and my point is, if we have officers that are willing to speed on our streets in Green Bay, how can we expect the residents to obey the speed limit on our streets? So that's my concern. That's why I've been here. I don't have too many concerns about after living there 22 years, but I think every alderperson I've had there has heard from me regarding speed on West Point Road. And then my only other comment that I had down here was the traffic analysis. I'd be curious to see. I think there has been some done there. I can't remember exactly how many years ago, but they identified, there was another article in the Press Gazette that identified streets with serious speed concerns on them, and West Point Road was one of those streets with serious speed concerns. So, and most of what I see, and it was interesting because I saw that sign, or the, I'm not sure what the actual, what we called that was taking that data, but that was taking data from Packerland heading west on West Point. Now, if you turn that around and did it another week, taking data heading east on West Point towards Packerland, coming down that, and that's another gradient issue as you're coming from the west heading east there, that grade does come down very good. And one of the things I thought about to slow the speed down would be to put a stop sign at Baumgart, which would be a three-way at that point, because Baumgart dies into West Point. But we don't put stop signs out to control speed, so I won't go, and I'm not, I get that, I'm not.
Some of us do.
It's not unheard of, but we're not gonna, and I.
Okay, he was paying attention earlier. I mean,
And I'm not, and I don't, it doesn't matter to me what we do. We just, again, Green Bay needs to become Rosendale until we get that education part and then the enforcement part of that too. And certainly with the, and I'm not sure exactly what that means, is that we're gonna have a dedicated traffic force relative to that. I don't know what that means, but that would be a perfect opportunity to sort of kick that off, that we're gonna, and it's just unfortunate that it's gone on as long as it has without that, because there's 7-8 years of work that's gonna have to be done. And I can tell you that every alder person that's here is gonna want that patrol in his neighborhood.
Sure.
To sweep, so. But I appreciate it, and I will take one of your comments.
Time to go.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you for sharing your
Oh, no,
concerns.
I have a question.
Oh, sure.
Thanks for coming in, Jeffrey. Sorry I got you on the wrong.
That's all right.
record, But anyway, I mean, in my district, I've got Bond Street between Taylor and Platt. There's stuff going all the time. So we all have our areas, and we're trying to address those accordingly. I guess one of the questions I have is, I mean, because West Point's such a long stretch, if you do a traffic study on an area like that, it seems to me that you'd have to look at what segment you're doing it, because you have school traffic and such, you got other areas that are just residential. So I guess that's a question, maybe, I was wondering if you felt that over that whole area, where would you like to see the study done?
I'd like the study done from South Point, between South Point and Packerland. Both directions. Both eastbound
Hold on
and
a second.
westbound.
Hey, Tim. South Point to where?
Packerland,
To Packerland. South
Each-
Point to Packerland, okay.
in each direction.
But then, I heard some concern between Packerland and, what you said, Packerland and South Point?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's
Well,
big.
he mentioned Baumgart. Baumgart is actually about
It's in the middle.
midpoint
Midpoint, yeah.
between the two.
That's where I want the stop sign.
Okay,
So,
well, those are my comments.
Yeah.
I guess when it comes down to the study, I mean, if we're doing the one over on South Point Parkwood, I mean, I've got, I think, 6 counters I got. So I'll need 4 counters for the South Point study, and so we could also at the same time deploy some out on West Point and get some similar data. The thing that's gonna be a little bit different, because the speed board is more of an enforcement tool, so sometimes it's on, sometimes it's not, so you will actually see a deterring effect, and it will lower those speeds. When the road tubes are placed in the street, people just think they're collecting cars, just counting cars, but we've got ways of getting all sorts of information out of those deployments, so it'll give you more of a incognito effect to it. This is really what they're traveling kind of thing without the presence of any sort of an enforcement tool.
So you're looking at that bigger stretch that we were talking about
Right.
for the study.
Yeah, and to be quite honest, since that is such a long stretch, I mean, I would even offer, I'd probably even go between Baumgart and Packerland and Baumgart and South Point. I could probably put 2 sets out, and then
Yeah.
that way we can kind of see if there's a difference between the two. That way I got all 6 out at one time.
That makes sense.
Okay.
You can't have any more requests though.
Wait a minute.
I'm about tapped out.
You got everything, Jeffrey, then?
Yeah.
Does your wife care to speak, or? No, okay, all right, anybody else on this item then? Okay, have a motion to return to
Motion to go
Thanks.
back to regular
Thank
order.
you, sir.
Second.
Motion made, second, go back to regular business, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. So do we have a, refer to staff? What's the name of this one?
For staff to study.
Are you doing just a speed study or a three-way stop study?
It sounded to me like it was more of a speed survey, that's all that was really requested, so.
I'll make a motion to do a speed study on West Point between Packerland and South Point.
Second.
Motion made, second. All
Before
in
we,
favor?
before we do that, can I just ask, is there the possibility though, we would have to make a separate communication if there was a three-way stop study? But we'd have to do that on another one.
Right, and technically looking at the way that it was presented, it really was just looking at speeds.
All right.
It wasn't any request for anything else.
I'm fine with that.
So,
Okay.
Okay, motion made, seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Alderman, were you here for your items?
Yeah,
For the staff?
Alderman Moore's here too, so.
Okay. You guys
I have
wanna flip a
4 of them,
coin?
so.
I've got 2 items, I mean, they could be taken together, and I do have a constituent here.
Okay. All right, since you got a
If you
constituent
don't
here,
mind.
we'll
Yeah,
probably,
Yeah,
Okay.
thank you though.
okay. Which one is your
I've got items 6 and 7.
6?
I mean,
Okay. So we start with
the
6?
chances of mine, they can be taken together,
Okay.
to kind of relate to each other.
they do.
Okay, we'll start with 6, request by Alderman Moore to review traffic calming options on East Shore Drive with possible action.
Okay, I'll start, I guess. So, looking at item 6, we're looking at a request for traffic calming options, and number 7 is more with respect to traffic, bike lanes, that sort of thing. I'll address the first one. You've already heard me talk about our neighborhood traffic calming policy, and in the discussion with Salt Point Road, I had mentioned that residential streets are applicable. Anything that's above that in classification, such as a collector roadway, is not eligible for that particular program. So that being said, I'm not sure East Shore Drive is really going to be the ideal candidate for permanent traffic calming options. And when I say permanent traffic calming options, these are, for example, speed humps, speed tables, choke downs, neck downs, those sorts of things. So that being said, I'm not necessarily sure that it would really bode with the objective of that street, which is really to collect that traffic and bring it out to, say, like Nicolay Drive. I guess you would say with the, let's just address this item 7, because I guess it really kind of gets back to item 6 then. I did make an observation. I went out into the field to observe this location. It's very difficult to actually see via mapping, which I can show you, but come to find out, there actually is a defined bike lane on East Shore Drive. It's there. The thing is that it's been marked such a long time ago that really the only marks that you can really see are the markings that define the edge of the bike lane itself. So you really do have to look close for the arrow sign or the arrow marking and then the bike lane symbol itself. That plus I believe that at the time when we had initially painted that, I believe the frequency was probably roughly about every 1,500 feet is when we would make such a marking on the street. I know that since bike activity, bike lanes have become actually something that is required by state for any state-funded project to be looked at for consideration. We've compiled the information that DOTs use and other agencies and what they use, and actually our policy now for newer installations is to actually have those markings more frequent. I'm not exactly sure what that number is, but I believe it's in the realm of 400 to 500 feet. So we'd be looking at probably more markings. So that being said, at least with item number 7, I certainly see it feasible and a very reasonable request to make remarking recommendation as part of this and actually look at potentially even more of these markings that just put them at locations more frequently, make sure that the intersecting roads are handled, not necessarily everyone. We've got all the state streets that go along, there's a lot of them that are quite frequent, but at least the major streets, you want to make sure that intersections such as Dan's Avenue are handled so that people turning off those streets can clearly see what those markings are. It could go up to the point too of even signing it. We've always tried to start with just marking bike lanes, and I know that maybe, 5+ years ago, there was, I think, more of a push to mark and sign both the bike lanes. But I think over time, I think people are getting more accustomed to seeing the bike lanes and the bike symbols, and maybe we just don't mark and sign them as much. Another item to consider out here that I came across in my field study was that I didn't see any no parking zones per se. So that being said, and I don't know, I don't live out in the area, and I travel it from time to time, but I guess maybe a question of the alder here is, have you seen or experienced anyone actually parking on East Shore Drive, say in that area? Because according to what I see, it's actually legal to do so. So I'm not sure if you've seen that.
I really haven't. I mean, when there's things going on, maybe at Bay Beach, sometimes some overflow parking will come back. It's more the arterial streets on the inside they'll stay on. There's really not a lot of room between curbs and bike lane to park a vehicle. It is only 2 lanes, the whole way.
Right,
So
yeah.
I really haven't seen that be the issue.
Yeah, because those are, I believe, the standard width of a bike lane, which is 5 feet. So, and a typical parking lane is 8 in width. So, yeah, someone would park there, they would be parking over that line. It would probably look a little odd or whatever. But, in review of the signing out there, and I did even confirm when I came back, I didn't see anything in our ordinance book as well. So, there is none of that. So, I guess the reason I ask is that if that is, we probably would want to at least via ordinance restrict all that area from parking to begin with. I know that, like, for example, Military Avenue, granted that is a minor arterial street, but it is dedicated. You'll look at the ordinance book and it's even signed as such. We actually have kind of combined the signs, try to reduce the number of signs in the city while at the same time getting the same message across. What we did on Military Avenue is we used the white background, red text, where it says no parking on the top, and then we just say bike lane in the white area. So you're really conveying 2 different messages. But if we don't have a problem, it's not like you have to. I guess, if it does become a problem, I guess, I don't know, maybe from an enforcement perspective, clarify me or correct me if I'm wrong here, Carl, but I would think that you'd be able to cite someone that would be parking there because they're obstructing a travel lane, bike lane therefore being a travel lane. I would think so, if that would become a problem. So not necessarily sure if we necessarily need to have a no parking ordinance in place, at least at first. But I guess at the end of the day, when I look at this definitely is a candidate for remarking and consideration for more markings and potentially the signage.
Question for you, Dave. Your markings, do you use epoxy or hot paint?
We use a water-based, not epoxy. Epoxy is typically used on state contracts, and
It's the reason I'm asking is it's this time of year. Pavement temperature, you really can't get many markings that'll stay. Would it be appropriate to have you go review the site, come up with the number of markings and also the no parking and bring it back for December to make action on, here's where all the markings should go, here's where we should have no parking because of concern of width from curb to curb?
To be quite frank, well, let me address, you really had 2 items in there. One about the epoxy and just our pavement marking program. I can guarantee I talked to our sign shop today who does our pavement marking for the city, and we shut those crews down for the year. We need an ambient pavement temperature of about 50 degrees on average in order for the paint to actually stick. So and now looking into the forecast, those numbers are just plummeting now. So we've shut down that. So I mean, really, any remarking at this point in time really couldn't happen until springtime. And even epoxy paint doesn't, as you know from construction.
It should be 38 and above for epoxy.
Right, and so it becomes more challenging as well. Now, with the placement of the exact markings, I don't really think it's necessary to even get to that level with traffic commission. That's typically done at the discretion of staff on where they need to go, and we can work with the alderman too, like if there's problem areas or something like that, and we don't have any problem with putting a marking down where it's really needed.
That's what I was gonna say, you don't need to come back to traffic for something like that. Painting the lines and stuff like that, you can just order that out.
Right, yeah, I've worked with you on
Right.
various places for marking stuff. I mean, but, if it's needed in a spot, we'll just put it,
We did talk with Director Grenier once I made the communication as well. And he said he would get this down for spring to go through and mark it up to the current standards it needs to be at. When I'm asking for something that's more defined, I think the no parking bike lane, those signs maybe at those main intersections. And actually on East Shore Drive, I mean, between Irwin and University Avenue, Dan's Avenue is the only one that comes in from the south. And there's not a single residence on the south side, but there's 90 residences on the north side on a 2.5 mile stretch. So you can imagine the flow of traffic is kind of unique over there as well. When you look at it being a straight shot to the university, the Veterans Association Hospital, since it's been built, there's been an increase in traffic. Of course, the Yardway Center is there. It's a 2-lane road, and you've got a lot of trucks hauling trailers coming through. So these are the kind of complaints, these are the kind of things that I see. And then one thing to keep in mind also is that with Webster Avenue reconstruction, which is planned, engineering and everything is being done now. We actually just had interviews with engineers this past week to start getting the ball rolling on that. But part of that plan is a 10-foot wide, all-purpose trail on the east side of Webster Avenue that would run from I guess, the East River Trail. Eventually it would connect to East River Trail, and it would run all the way to Bay Beach, connecting, by Nicolay Avenue. So, I mean, eventually, long-term, it'd be nice to run that trail straight to the university and get it tied in with the Arboretum and have just a great connection, right to downtown from the university by trail. So, I mean, that's pretty far out. So, I mean, I don't want to do things as far as Cheryl lanes and these things right now that are high cost and things that will be end up phased out over the next 2 years as it is. That's why I think just painting and putting up a few signs to better define it is good. But like I said, between Irwin Avenue and Nicolay, University I should say, there's no stop signs. It's a 2.5 mile straight run, and it's great for the bikers. But when you've got the cars that are going 50, 55 on a narrow bike lane on the side, it just those are some of the things that we get complaints about. So that's where I think the traffic study is probably the more, I say traffic calming just because it's a good term to use. I understand there's, what it is. I talked to Captain Laux, and there was some grant money in August that came in, and they spent a short time on East Shore Drive and issued 3 citations in just a very short period of time, 41 on the day in 4 key locations in the city. So I mean, it's not that there isn't an issue. I don't want to say it's all enforcement. There's only so many of those speed boards that you can put out.
Right. Yeah, and the bike lanes, the white lines, the signs, and I think the more frequent of the symbols and so forth, does convey to the motorists that, hey, this is you need to share the road here, folks. And I do believe that could have a deterrent effect on the speeds. And from what we heard tonight, from all these other discussions, I mean, our traffic enforcement unit's going to be getting ready.
Busy.
It's going to be ready. It's going to be busy, and I think better times are ahead of us when it comes down to approaching, as I said earlier, and even as Mr. Bunker had wrote in his notes, very observant. Engineering, education, enforcement. We really do need all 3 of those in order for this to work. And it really gets taxing sometimes on public works because we do see an abundance of these type of requests when we know that we can only do so much, and throwing more at it isn't always going to solve the problem. But in this case, we definitely have seen that we can make some improvements when it comes down to the engineering portion of it, absolutely. And Director Grenier's already made the commitment. Obviously, we'll support that as well, and we'll get crews out in the spring to do that. We'll modify it with additional markings. And I guess the one thing that we really need to resolve here tonight is what do we do with the no parking? Because I don't really have any authority to put up no parking unless it's made ordinance, so that.
Doesn't sound like it's a problem.
No, I mean, I certainly would support it. I mean, it's a bike lane, so I obviously support
Do
it.
you have a constituent that wants to speak?
Mr. Jacobson is here.
Did you care to speak
wife
to
is
the
the president
committee?
of the neighborhood association,
Okay.
so I'm not sure if that's me.
Did you care to speak to the committee, sir?
No, I just,
Okay, just, I didn't want to leave you out. It's
It's got to report back to the wife,
my only
right?
comment is that on the bike lanes there, that, I go out there and walk, and they're not there anymore.
Okay.
I can't even remember the last time they painted them, so.
Yeah.
Okay.
I
Well, if you
think-
wanted to speak, we'll go to close, or open it up if you'd like to. If not, I mean, that's fine. You came here and you sat through all this, so you have the time to do it if you care, so, okay.
And I think the south side of Dams is probably, or south side, I should say, of East Shore Drive is probably the area that probably is the most concerned. Just because that is where that Yardway Center entrance is. That's where the entrance to the wildlife sanctuary is. So there are some slow down, take some right turns right there where those bike lanes need to be more clearly defined.
That's, man, in all Alderman Moore, I concur. I mean, I drive along that stretch fairly often, and the bike
Do you
lanes.
speed?
Pardon? No.
Yeah. Were you
No,
the
no,
cheese pulled over?
I got an old car. It rolls. But anyway, I don't see the delineation of the bike lanes all that well. And my son used to be an intern over at the wildlife sanctuary, so I'd go over there quite a bit. And you'd see cars that would park there and that. And my first reaction was, it seems a little tight with that, so I think that's something we need to study as well. So I'd be willing to, unless you said you didn't think there was that much of a problem with it, but. You know,
Not when you get east of Irwin Avenue. I mean, at the wildlife sanctuary, people like to go and fish, but I don't see that as being a very big problem because the street is much wider. I mean, there's plenty of room for it there.
But what, if they're parking there, you wouldn't be able to see the bike lane, you'd assume that there's a bike lane. Is that part of the problem, part of the issue?
Looks like a wide,
It's just wide.
it's like a
Well,
wide
it's just
apron,
wider.
is what it looks like, a wide apron. Yeah.
I'm glad you mentioned this, because I do want to make clarification on where technically that bike lane starts. It doesn't start at Irwin. It actually, there's a concrete section that goes by the wildlife sanctuary, and as you had mentioned, there's people that park there, and they go fishing and so forth. And it's actually marked as a 4-lane facility. Once you actually proceed eastbound from the 4-way stop over at Bay Beach, that's actually marked as a 4-lane street. So I don't know if that's anything that's being under
So where does the
consideration here.
bike
I don't
lane-
think I would really want to change it. I think
That
that,
hasn't been an issue.
yeah, so the limits, I think, are clearly defined, because
Where's
it
the
goes
bike
from
lane
concrete
start?
to an asphalt.
Where does the bike lane start?
I'll actually show you the, yeah, I can zoom in
Roughly.
actually on here. I believe it's kind of around, I think that's the joint line right here. Let me just drop in this guy here.
Well,
So, yep, right there. So you can see where that joint line is right here. And actually, it does extend a little bit past there, but,
so the East
So that
Shore
would-
Drive, is
Yep,
East-
just-
the court come in right
Yeah.
around there?
so see, this is concrete pavement. You can see with the panels, and this turns into asphalt right here. So this is technically in the eastbound direction where it starts. So, we would start it there. We'd put the bike lane marking there, and if indeed we're gonna be getting some no parking zones, and quite frankly, I mean, you really should just put it, no parking along the entire length. That's what we've done historically in other locations.
You find if people are riding their bikes, if they're at Irwin, I mean, they're gonna ride the bike up to that point. So you have a bike lane over there, but not to the west. So I don't know. I guess I'm not really fully, granted, it's a wider
It's a
wider
little bit wider,
stretch.
wider
It's a
through
wider
here.
stretch.
You have the concrete pavement with the joint lines, which is, we know if it's an unmarked, even an unmarked situation like this, if you can drive it 4 wide, it's legal to drive it 4 wide, right? So it should
Is
have
that car
enforcement
stalled that they
interpretations.
painted over it?
What's that?
Little joke.
It's a racing street.
Yeah,
Speed
yeah,
racing.
yeah, we caught that guy speeding right there. Speeding.
Is
But,
that your car, Mark?
What's that?
Is that your car?
It's not that nice.
It's very
It
slow.
looks very strikingly similar. But no, I, unless you see something else here, more, I would move forward with in the springtime, making those markings and any sort of signs that we would need past this point where technically, the cross-section changes slightly and so forth. But I guess really like I said, at least from my end of it, I certainly recommend the no parking zone, at least on the south side. But I mean, if we're gonna mark or sign, I should say both sides, we really should have, and we could really just use that same template that we used from
From where to
Military
where?
Avenue, no parking, bike
From where to
lane.
where? No parking from where to where? West?
It would be from this joint line all the way
From
out
that
to
joint, all the
Nicolay
way up.
Drive.
All the way to where?
Nicolay.
Nicolay.
Does that have to come back as a different action since it wasn't talking about no parking in here in number 7, Dave?
I know the item does not say to do that. However, I look at it as if you have a bike lane, you have to have a no parking zone that goes with it, you know what I mean? The two go hand in
Yeah.
hand. So I honestly would interpret this to give you the flexibility to make that motion, I think so. And Chairman, ultimately, you have that decision to make. I'm just simply making
Makes sense.
an interpretation of, from what I understand.
Unless there's more discussion, I'll make a motion to have the lanes remarked and the signs put up for no parking and bike lane from wherever to wherever. You guys have wore me out.
You guys gotta be tired of all the speedy talk, I get it.
Is that your 6 and 7 together then, Dave?
We need to have one long meeting a year, you know?
Right?
And that's for number 7, I don't know, number 6 is what receive and place on file.
Yeah, what do we,
Two separate
do
ones.
we,
Yeah, I would say probably that as in, you know, because the two really go hand in hand, so just pick which one you want to have to see the place about, because we're really addressing it all at
Yeah,
once.
6 would more than likely be the one to receive and place on files and stuff.
I make a motion to that
Sign
effect.
5 and 7.
all right, we'll go 6, have a motion to receive and place on file,
I'll
seconded.
second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries, and 7.
Good second.
Thanks, gentlemen, appreciate it. Good night.
Did you get a second?
I don't know if you took a vote on
Oh,
number
no.
7.
No.
I made the motion.
Motion been made,
Second.
seconded,
I second that.
all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
What was that? No, for the final motion?
That was for 7.
Oh, for 7. What was the, hold on a second.
7 was the initial motion.
That was the signs and the markings.
Right.
I had motion by Chuck and seconded by Dan, is that correct?
Sounds right.
That's fine.
Okay.
I'll cut
And
you
then
off.
for 6, I had,
Mark
motion
made
by
that
Chuck
one.
and Mark, you seconded it. So, do we
Okay.
go back to the beginning then?
Yeah, or do we
Oh,
want to
wait,
go to?
you've been waiting around for a while.
go ahead.
Are you sure?
Go on, yeah. Keep going.
Did we vote on that?
Yeah.
What about 4?
We want to 4 or 10?
Let me see, yeah, number 3, the serious injury report, fatality report, should we just go through that real quick?
All right, that's fine. As long as the alders don't care, and if they're waiting.
We approved of the minutes, so yeah, I think number 3 was a,
Sent these over last month when I was out of town, what happened?
Okay, we're gonna go number 3, report by the
There.
police department of 2015 third quarter serious injury and fatality crashes.
oh, this is third quarter. We got this.
Sent these over last month.
Yeah.
Alrighty.
You're on.
Was there 4 of them or 3?
There's 4.
Okay.
Can you make that any bigger at all, Dave, or is that as big as it?
Yep, I can make it as.
We're getting older.
Thank you.
Whoops.
Down
Hold
on
on a
the
second.
bottom, slide the thing in the lower right, Dave. Okay, there you go.
Control on the up and up scroll too on Solex.
A little bit farther.
How's that? Can you read that?
Better.
It's got, you gotta go up. Right.
Can't
Wait,
read it.
no, this is the first one right here.
I need glasses, I need it.
Alright.
Here, yeah.
I apologize for not bringing these. I sent them last month when I was on vacation and for my replacement.
Oh, yeah, we decided to wait for
You
you.
saved them
Carl.
for me.
We
Thank
decided to
you.
wait for you.
Thank you.
Yeah, you know, you're on vacation. You gotta
Yeah, well.
have something.
He was
Before you come
overstressed last
back.
month because you're out of here by what, 5:45 or something?
Yeah, he did say something about it, making sure the meeting stuff. We had 4 fatality crashes this quarter. On the 9th of July, 3:56 p.m., there was a 4-vehicle crash, the intersection of Ashland and Lombardi. Was resulted in a single fatality, 2 serious injuries, and several minor injuries. Accident occurred when the driver of a Dodge van, minivan, that's headed eastbound on Lombardi Avenue. He had sustained a medical issue that caused him to black out. Driver's foot depressed on the accelerator of the vehicle, causing him to accelerate up in area of around 70-75 miles an hour. Passenger in that van, he had recognized what was going on, tried to get the vehicle out of gear, get his foot off the gas and such. Was not able to do so before contact with a southbound sedan that was traveling on Ashland Avenue. Impact with that sedan killed the driver of the van almost instantaneously. The vehicle that was struck was deflected into the northbound lanes, and he had broadsided another sedan, minor injuries with that vehicle. Excuse me. Debris from the van, which after the initial impact actually tumbled through the intersection and wound up landing adjacent to the railroad crossing on Lombardi, which would be just east of the intersection of Ashland. So in total, we had 2 sedans, motorcycle, and the van that were involved. Riders of the motorcycle had injuries they were transported for, minor damage to the vehicle, nothing life-threatening. Driver of the second sedan that was involved, basically shaken up, no injuries. Driver of the first sedan involved was deceased on scene. And then the passenger in the van, and there were also 2 kids that were in car seats, all transported to the hospital. Substantial injuries on the passenger. The kids had very minor injuries. Driver of the van had some substantial injuries. This case currently is still being worked by my recon team. There are some mitigating circumstances that we're looking at, which may or may not result in some type of criminal charges involved in the case.
Was the driver of the van that blacked out, did he passed, correct?
No, he survived.
He survived.
Right.
Okay, that's right. I was.
So. Okay, on the 21st of July, about 11:27 in the morning, there was a single vehicle crash involving 2 pedestrians. So at 1900 block of South Broadway, it resulted in the death of one of the pedestrians, life-altering injuries for the other pedestrian. Vehicle involved was a full-size Dodge Ram quad cab pickup. It had been north on Broadway. It just passed through the intersection of Joannes Avenue. The truck veered off of the road to the right side, and bless you, sir. Veered off the road to the right side and had struck the passengers involved, or the pedestrians that were both construction workers, had been working in the paper mill there. They'd come out for lunch, sit in the shade alongside of the road. Had just finished lunch, they were getting up and just starting to walk back in when they were struck. This case, I'm not going to say too much more about it at this point, other than it is currently being worked by my recon team, and they're in talks with the district attorney's office regarding potential charges. So,
Is there alcohol involved? That you know of?
Can't say.
Can't say. Okay. All right.
Yeah, I'm gonna plead the fifth on that. Just
all right.
Tom nailed it for me. On the 24th of July, this is a single vehicle accident at 1457 East Mason Street. Driver had been at a house party most of the night with his with the owner of the vehicle. Owner of the vehicle chose not to drive. They had come from the north down Baird to Mason Street and then proceeded eastbound. While the vehicle was on Mason Street, it appears that the driver of the vehicle had backed out, passed out, I'm sorry. And the vehicle just did a very slow veer and struck the corner of the house, which projected the driver forward into the windshield. He also had a number of power tools that were stored in the back, job saws, things of that sort that came forth. So between the impact of the windshield and the crush factor with the tools that were in the back of the vehicle, the driver of that accident was deceased. Blood alcohol content there was a .141. Passenger in the vehicle was treated at the hospital and released. So, and then the final one, the intersection of Irwin and Radisson, it would be about 2 o'clock in the morning on August 27th. Fire department had responded to a tire shop located on the northeast corner of the intersection and initially just responding to a structure fire. About 6 o'clock in the morning, 6:30, they discovered, in talking with the owner of the business, there was only supposed to be one vehicle in the shop, and they had found two, which became a problem. And then after looking at some photographs, they realized the back of the building had what appeared to the fire department to be a garage door in a cinder block wall. It was symmetrical square edges, and the guy that owned the business is, man, I never had a garage door there before. So that opening in the wall was created by a vehicle which was going westbound on Radisson, very high rate of speed. I believe impact speed on that was plus 70 miles an hour with the impact to the building. Two occupants in the vehicle, brothers, both intoxicated, both had THC on board. I believe both of them were killed upon impact with the wall of the building. However, after the impact, the car went inside of the building. There were tools such as oxyacetylene torches, MAP gas, very combustible type of gases for working on vehicles, along with a large supply of tires inside the building. So once that started burning, it was quite the job for them to put it out. But again, both of the occupants in the vehicle there would have been killed on impact. So
What was the P, what were the initials used, Carol? PHB or?
THC?
THC, marijuana.
Oh, marijuana, okay, sorry.
Now, I read the story about that building burning, but there was no mention in the story about this other aspect of it.
No, it's, it wasn't something the media really wanted to grab hold of. You know, the fire is sensational, nobody dead. They, for whatever reason, I don't recall what else was going on in the area at the time, if there was something else that was, you know, maybe some of the Packers or something. Perhaps it just kind of pulled the media's attention away from this one. But I guess one of the other things is with the driver involved being deceased, there's going to be no criminal charges. It's basically pick up the pieces. And I don't know if that's as much of a news story to them as if something criminal is going to come out of it.
Lieutenant, how many fatalities have we had this year so far? Or injuries of note? Just ballpark. I mean, that seems like a lot right now.
I think we're up around 7 right now.
About 7 or 8. It's interesting because when you look at statewide figures, you know, I mean, it's somewhat come down over the years. It
Yes.
seems like in Green Bay we've had a few more than we're normally used to.
We'd actually been on a downward trajectory. 13, we were down to 1. And then 14, I think we had 3 or 4. Now this year it's gone back up again.
What are we at right now, roughly? 7?
7 or 8 in that area.
That's pretty high. That's really
Yeah,
high.
it is.
But that's just, okay.
All right,
We'll make a motion to receive and place on file.
motion been made, seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. We're gonna go to 4, we're gonna go to 10, since Alderman Dwayne is.
I got 10 through 13.
It's
So
all
it's
right.
the same thing.
Make a motion on all of
Yeah.
Which, so we're gonna take
Stick 10,
number 10?
request by Alderman Tom Wade to establish a two-way stop condition on Rivington Road and Browning Road.
Okay, can I just start there, if I could?
Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you, and I appreciate you holding us up. The first time this group came together, we had a meeting here in City Hall with Captain Work at the time that came to listen to him on all 4 of these requests. We talked about it and what they wanted to do. At the last meeting, they could not make it. They work nights. I have to meet with them on Saturdays or Sundays because the group that live in this area that came together all work the same time, except for one person. And so I brought it back, they're still working, they can't take a day off, so I'm gonna, whatever they bring and whatever I get from Director Hanson, I'll meet with them again, but this is some of the stuff that they had asked to bring forward. And every one of these pertain to speed, every one of these, and there was a study done, I don't know if Carl has that in front of him, but,
I think I have the summary of it here. Yeah, I don't actually have all the detail, but I do have the summary here. I have a speed board
right,
study that was conducted September 23rd through September 29th, resulted in an 85th percentile speed of 24 miles an hour in the eastbound direction between Browning Road and Deer Trail, and 25 miles an hour in the westbound direction.
and the other 15% were at a high rate of speed, anywhere from 69 to 80. And what I contributed to that too, and Captain Warwick agreed with me, I think they're, because it's by Preble High School, I call it speed chasers, where kids will see how fast they can go when they see.
Yeah, there was definitely one of those on there. I saw
Yeah.
that and
Yeah, there was there's 3 of them, different times. But, and I told the people that's contributed, and I know because I've had them done before, and you know better.
And one of the things I did as soon as I saw it was flipped on the cameras on the board. So if we get another occasion of that, we get some type of evidence of it, and we have an idea who it was to go after.
Yeah. I do have one gentleman, and like I say, these people get together, they did find a car. Right now he's at school, so this Thanksgiving I'll be meeting with their family, or Easter I will find him, because whenever he's home he's a problem guy. He drives a Cadillac, they got movable money, so apparently this kind of stuff doesn't matter to them, because I did talk to him before and it's happened again, so. And the thing of it now is I went through a lot of different captains within the last month because of retirements and changes that the chief made, and now I have Captain Locks, right?
Yep.
So he's going to help me, and the reason I got that speed, I didn't get a call back from you, Carl, but you did send somebody out there and put up that speed trap. Now for number 10, the reason they want that two-way stop sign at Remington Road and Browning Road is because Remington Road's my main one. It used to be Deer Trail, but once they open that up, they come flying through there. What's happening is they don't want to go through by Preble High School and dance, and so they cut through. And it's a through way to get back to dance instead of going up to Dan's Avenue by Preble.
Yeah, just for clarification, this was probably, what, maybe 5 years ago, Tom?
Right.
When Remington Road was actually connected in this area by this conservancy here.
Right.
It wasn't always that way, so the people over here by Sage Drive and Remington Court used to always have to come down. You could only access it via Edmund Street or Burgundy Court and all of that area over here. But that was connected a number of years ago, and then that seems like that's when the reports started coming in.
Right. And so that's why they're looking, and we discussed it too, and I've been through this a lot of times in my 10 years, and I said, we don't put up stop signs, but another thing that Captain Work was talking about was there's a lot of children in that area, they ride kids' bikes back there, because it's really not, it's a dead-end street, all these streets you come in, it's a T type thing, but because of the fast traffic that's moving, they're afraid that someone's gonna get killed, because it comes down on a slope. You can see how it comes up and then it comes down, and they don't stop there. I mean, there's no stop sign to stop. And so they're hoping that by putting a stop sign there, that'll slow things down and protect the kids in the area. So I don't know if you did a study on that one, Dave, or not, but
Really, my only feedback on this request is that it is somewhat abnormal from what is typically seen in the field, where when you have a T intersection, typically the minor road, in this case Browning Road, would be the one to yield or stop. So in this case, like a one-way yield northbound, and Remington Road has the right-of-way. So the way that this is presented is that stopping here and basically giving Browning Road the through movement here. Like I said, it's just something that I don't think motorists are really that accustomed to seeing, and I guess my only caution at this time is that if that does happen, we'll be looking at potential issues down the line where people are like, oh, why are they going through, and then all of a sudden a crash happens, where they might assume it should be an all-way stop or whatnot. But, yeah, I mean, again, We've talked about a lot about speed control and multi-way stops, and really don't need to say anything more other than, if this really indeed is a speed issue, and it's a unique one, though. That's the thing. This is kind of a unique one in the case of, it sounds like they're, like we were saying, they're speed chasers. More, I guess, interpreted as they see a speed driver feedback sign and they want to race it and see how high they can get. It's like a game to them. So I question whether or not a stop sign would even stop someone in that situation. If they're willing to violate at such high rate of speed, would they build a stop sign? That would be the only thing I caution on, and we definitely don't want to jeopardize safety from that perspective. But it's a unique neighborhood, and they certainly have had their challenges, especially with the extension of Remington Road. I understand the connectivity, but it seems to have introduced some other ancillary items.
Dave, did we
Can
talk
I ask
about this
Bill?
the last couple of months?
Excuse me?
Do we have a different issue with this same neighborhood in the last couple of months?
I know that we have dealt with the cut-through traffic.
How's it?
Because what ends up happening, I mean,
It's
this,
been a while.
Yeah, okay, I was
Yeah, it's been a while.
something similar.
to be, we'll just get right down to it. What ends up happening, what a lot of the people, and Tom, I'm sure you can probably confirm this as well, is a lot of the residents on Deer Trail complain about speeding during the exit time from school, because what ends up happening is that those kids will take a right out of this parking lot you see right here, in order to avoid all the congestion down at Dan's Decker and all the buses that are coming out at that time. It just becomes a very congested area in that time. So what, in essence, they do is they take a right, they take a left up on Winchester, take another left on the Deer, and then they go north on Dan's. Or some of them may take a left here and just go to the four-way stop, and it's probably a quicker journey for them because they don't have to deal with the congestion of that school release period of Preble High School. So,
And also, Dave, if I may, the traffic from Baird always turns on Winchester too, and goes up Deer Trail to Dan's to beat that and just be around. And it's always during the morning hours before and after school. And it's just adults doing this too, that are going to work, just as much as the kids are. And also during the peak hours of getting out of work, they follow the same direction. So it is, people wanted just to avoid that congestion at Detner and Dan's.
Do you think that would take care of the situation, Tom, if you had a two-way stop right there? That
You know
would
what?
help a lot of it?
They're gonna stop there and I understand that, but I agree with Dave. I think it's an enforcement thing. I don't want, the people are gonna be mad at me for saying that. I don't know what we can do. Like you said, I've never seen the small, Remington's a small road. Carl, you can vouch for that. They don't stop there really. If you put a stop sign, it would probably be better to put it on Browning Road. I mean, because what they're doing is they're telling me, they come up there and they're ready to turn and someone's flying through. Well, they're possible cars. Just because it doesn't say stop, it's a T, traffic is coming, and we discussed it at length. We did.
Is there any sign there right now, a yield
Nothing.
sign for what's
no,
northbound
currently it's an
Browning or whatever it is?
uncontrolled. It's
So
uncontrolled.
if it's a T, you would have it at both Remington and Browning? Is that what you're looking for? Because Dave, it sounded like you were just talking about at Browning.
They were trying to find an area where they could put a stop sign to slow traffic down altogether on
So you
Remington.
need,
And that's the
See, this-
go-to between.
it's a T intersection.
Yeah,
So
the
you'd
whole
like-
thing's a T.
So you'd like to see it on both?
No, all you
Just-
need it is,
on Browning.
they're looking at, they
On
want it on
Browning.
Remington to stop the traffic.
So what do you would like to see?
Oh, man, I would like to see a stop sign there, but I gotta be honest with you, I usually, me and Dave talk at length on a lot of things, and I usually go with what he says, but traffic enforcement, like you said, everybody wants them. I even suggested, and I talked to you about this, Dave, on Browning Road, or like on Remington and Savage, where they come up there, you'll see that we got something on each street, is putting a sign up that lets them know it's a T. For people that are coming through. And the first time people that after they learn they can cut through there, is let them know once they come flying down. I mean, they come down there, and all of a sudden they're coming at a fast rate, that they understand it's a T intersection. And we
I
discussed that.
can't figure out why there wouldn't be a stop sign at a T though.
Well, not all of them are. I mean, in low volume situations, it's actually been proven in some studies that this actually makes it safer because all road users are going, okay, who's that coming up to the intersection? I've heard of studies even done in Europe where communities will actually take complete neighborhoods and wipe out all of the signs, and they find out it's actually safer because everyone's going, okay, who's gonna stop, who's gonna stop? And it actually has a slowing effect and a calming effect on it. Does that necessarily work around here, or is that typical, excuse me, of what we have at T intersections? The answer is no. Typically, I think Green Bay drivers, Wisconsin drivers, for the most part as well, are more accustomed to stopping or yielding when they are coming into the head of that T and they see that there's a through street. I just think that's common nature. I think even without them, that's even how people drive them. That's typically how people drive them. In this case, when I look at this, and I think, you can see that I think this is actually kind of a good thing to see this, because you can see this whole tree line here. Not necessarily sure over here, it doesn't really look like it. You still have it, but you can still see between the trees. But you see that it's probably a little bit more difficult to see this way of vehicles coming. So looking at it from a site perspective, it probably would make more sense to have the stop on Browning than it would be on Remington. And I think, again, it would be more of a, you talk about people, they're not stopping, they're in a blown to it. Well, that should solve the case. And again, it's more of an expected type of traffic control that I think most users would comply with.
And Browning is the minor league,
Right.
and that because on Remington, you only got one more block and they have to make a left turn.
Exactly.
So if you're gonna put any type of control up, I agree, it should go on Browning, not on Remington.
Right. Can you put the map up again as far as just the street map?
Yep.
'Cause
So right
I'm
here.
trying to follow this a little bit, bring it toward it, not skew it. I wanna see the roads. I wanna see
I'm gonna have to-
Deckner, I wanna see Deer Trail, I wanna see Dan's, I wanna see Winchester, Browning, Remington.
All right, I apologize, I'm not really familiar with how
Well,
to
just-
not cant it like that, but
Well, that's fine, but
you can see right here,
So,
here's Dan's.
I just need,
Here's
for my
Deckner.
own clarification, so there's a high school. You're just saying that traffic will come up to here, up to Deckner, or all the way, they'll come up to here and then come around?
No,
I mean, I just need,
go ahead.
I need to get a
What
clarification.
they're doing, they're coming west on Deckner, and they don't wanna go with the congestion up here, and so they'll come up here.
This is coming to school,
This is, or going to work.
or going
No,
on.
this is coming this way, mostly people going to work. When the kids get done with school and all that, what they do is they come up through here and they come flying in through here, or they'll come up here to go to Remington, and they'll fly this way. And it's 2 times, before school and after school, or peak hour when people are generally getting done with work. But, because of the situation, it used to be just Deer Trail I had to worry about, but when Remington opened up back in here and was a throughway, all these houses back in here that come off of Alpine and all that, they take Remington
Move that
Road.
over, 'cause that does go all the way through now, because that used to be, that did not go through every
Right,
time. that-
so all these people that were lived here, that used to go down Deckner and Alpine around, they all go up Remington. Most of them go up Remington to Dan's and
Enough.
up.
Right.
So once that opened up, all the traffic, and it's an easy way out for them.
Okay.
Because nobody wants to take that 5 extra minutes waiting for the traffic on Dan's and Bader. Because you got the 4-way stop on Bader, and then you got the school pedestrian crossing. Like I said, I have one of those crossing things in the road. So everybody that that needs to go this way comes up Remington
Then you're
Road.
saying there was a speeding issue too?
Yeah, and that's what this whole thing is about, speeding. The whole thing is.
Okay, I just need to.
But Remington doesn't go all the way to Dance, right? You gotta turn and.
In Remington, actually, what the motorists will do is they'll come up here to, I forget what this is Sage? Or I think this is Remington, it doesn't even say. But what they're doing is they're taking this over to Sage, and then they're taking Sage across over this way, coming down on Edmund Street, and then they come out onto Deckner.
Actually, I think that's called Majestic Heights Drive.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then this is
That little-
Alpine,
that
and then
little
Alpine will
spur.
take them right down
Right.
East Mason Street.
Yep.
Over to 43. So, yeah, that's
It's
just
just it's a throughway
Right.
that they've learned and accustomed to use every day.
Right, and the condition that I was talking about as well, and Carl and I actually had gone out there prior to the last meeting, but we postponed it because.
Yeah, because I couldn't get the people.
Yeah, because we couldn't get people here, but we had witnessed when we were parked actually right here on Savage Street southbound, and we wanted to be there for the school release to find out what was going on. So, like I was saying, what happens is as soon as this starts to clear out, you don't see a lot of them taking a left. I mean, I didn't see that, but I saw what was happening here because I saw a bunch of right turners, and they were coming up Winchester and then coming westbound on Deer Trail. So we saw predominant movement going westbound here, is what it was.
Yeah, and
Because they're
that's
trying to
coming up
avoid,
later.
like you had said, the congestion at Dan's Deckner,
Right.
and ultimately over here at the four-way stop at Bader Deckner and all of that. And then this is a one-way street, and then, well, we're gonna be talking about this item here shortly. You know, then they get this whole merging issue that's going on over there, so they just say, heck with it all. We're gonna come through over here, and then we're gonna come up over at Deer Trail, and then just take a right, and it saves them time, really, it does. I mean, this is one where they actually know they gotta go a further distance, but to make less time. That's what motorists do, it's that they wanna get somewhere in the shortest time, not necessarily the shortest distance. So, yeah, no, we certainly confirm what they're talking
But
about.
I'm hearing talk here, you wanted at Remington, and now I hear at Browning as well, so
Well,
can we deal with
Remington and Browning, that's where it.
Remington
They
and
wanted, yeah,
at
they
Browning?
wanted the traffic to stop at Remington and Browning. So on Remington is what the people that live there would like to see a stop sign on Remington.
Both
Does it
ways?
show where those condominiums are, Dave? Can you?
Yeah, these over here.
Tom, that's both ways then, on Remington?
Yeah, see, now, if, what they would ideally like, see where Deer Trail is right here, but their discussion was Browning Road, because they were closer to Browning Road. They would ideally love to see a stop sign right here, where Deer Trail comes around and comes up to Browning Road, because they do come flying through Deer Trail up to this, Remington. Deer Trail and Remington are my main targets, but they would have a stop sign, because actually, people are coming out of this area right here, all these condominiums here, and they got this, the brush or their plants and stuff out here, so they gotta really approach out, and people are flying through there. That would be the ideal place to put a stop sign. On Remington.
Yeah, I do recall when, all this was
I've tried to do that
connected.
once before, so that's why I didn't bring it up this time.
Yeah, and, you know, when these were built, that was the request at that time, because
Yeah.
what was happening was these condo owners were just coming through and just coming into the street, and then, you know, I think there were some near misses, all this, you know, the sort of.
And there's
things
still,
you get.
it still happens to this day.
How many people live up in that area, those condos? I mean, is that a pretty?
Well, yeah, it's
Maybe 20 units at
20,
best.
maybe
20
25 at the most.
Yeah.
They're full though,
Yeah.
there's 3 complexes back
What I
there.
ended up doing over there was I worked, because they had no signage coming out of here, and this looks like a street, you know, they got this median here, and it actually looks like a street cross section, so I worked with the condo association and had a stop sign installed on there for their traffic. Which
They-
really, I mean, they didn't need it because all private roads are supposed to yield anyways, they're stopped to public street, but because it looks like one, they were treating it as that, so I asked them, they were fine with it, they went ahead and said, okay, that's fine, so we did put it in, but well, that was at least 5 years ago, wasn't it, Tom?
Yeah, more, probably more.
Tom,
Tom, was the request for the stop sign down at Browning made by somebody on the corner at Browning? Or by
No,
the
there was
condos?
15 people that live in that direct area, Remington, Deer Trail. I mean, because they're all concerned. People on Deer Trail, they're concerned about Deer Trail. The people in Remington and Browning are concerned about their 2 spots. And because it comes to a T, not everybody's stopping. These kids are flying through there, and it's a quick look and fly. And then these other guys are just coming.
Well, I'm just asking if it was
Yeah.
somebody living there, because when Dave had that view up of the street view, looking north and back to the east, with all the trees, if it's a site issue that maybe some of the vegetation needs to be removed or trimmed back there to open up the sight line back to the east. To me, stop signs and speed aren't the right mix to try to control the speed, especially when you only got one more block and you gotta make a 90-degree turn.
Well, that's why I was suggesting put it back on Deer Trail. That would be the ideal place. Because that would stop it, because Remington goes quite a way back to and all that. And once that traffic gets going, it doesn't stop.
So you
And
want
that's,
the-
yeah, and that's
want
a
the stop sign
downhill
there.
on Remington there, that's a
Down
downhill,
Brady's
yeah,
Farm.
yeah.
So you want it just at that
That would be
Not
my
that
ideal
spot, but
place.
to the east?
Yeah,
To the east, or?
I think that would really help out a lot, because it'd take a while to get back up to before you get to Savage. You'd have to.
But you'd have to do a four-way stop type of analysis up there in that.
Was there an analysis done on that intersection?
There was a long time ago, 5, 6 years ago, Dave.
Do you think it's changed? It's
Yeah,
changed
yeah.
now?
But you gotta remember, that wasn't all built up back there then either. They
Right.
built that through, and now it's all built up.
Right, those
So,
homes
yeah.
on Sage Drive, I don't think
Yeah.
that was even.
And there's, oh yeah, that's all filled up in there.
And this Lost Ridge.
Yep, Lost
That
Ridge.
area, is that gonna connect up, Dave, where, pull over, see where that little spur comes up, go to the, right there. Those areas, is
You're not
that a
gonna-
cul-de-sac?
Yeah, you're not gonna build nothing back there. It's
No.
100 feet deep,
All right,
in their
I figured,
backyard.
I just wanna make sure nothing else is
Yeah,
gonna go there.
it's beautiful. Great place to go deer hunting.
There you go.
Yeah, that's quite a drop off there.
Should go la 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 la.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
say that.
Yeah, he didn't mean that.
Majestic Heights, yeah, you were
So,
right.
Yeah.
so to get back to number 10, so we.
Yeah, let's just get to that.
Keep moving on here.
Yep.
And that, I mean, I'm not for two-way stop on Remington, but I could make a motion for a northbound stop on Browning.
Can I ask you to do this?
Or just-
Because I would like to, Dave, redo that study on Remington and Deer Trail. You might have to do it, I mean, you ain't gonna be doing it now, but
Yeah, it's
even
probably-
this summer.
Yeah, it'd have to be in the spring
I
summer.
I can do that because we need to do something there. They're coming through pretty, I mean, and there's a lot of children in there. I mean, it's not like your everyday, I understand that, but there's gotta be something done there. And I'd prefer a study be done, your first opportunity, obviously in the summer or the spring, when school starts up. I mean, because they're gonna, the people that come off of Deckner and from behind, they're gonna keep coming through all year round anyway, but I don't, it's more so when the schools.
And at the end of the day, if you, I mean, if we're clear of snow, I mean, I'll use them until that first snowfall.
Yeah,
Well, we got the Salt Point study that's gotta get done, then it's gonna be Thanksgiving, we probably don't want them up then, but if we don't have snow after Thanksgiving, I mean, that could easily put road tubes out.
And you might
Yeah.
have a better shot at getting a four-way stop here because it's more balanced.
yep,
compared to
yep, that's what,
Portland.
I prefer to do it right.
Right.
Because like I say, I don't try to push things. I work with Dave close and I don't wanna lose that, what we do.
So for number 10, Tom, would you just receive and place on file?
No, ask for a study. He's to do a study on this.
He's asking to, but I think what you're saying is the actual request is for a different
Yes,
intersection.
Receive and place on file,
Right,
yes.
the actual request for Remington and Browning, receive and place on file. I'll make
Yes.
that
I'll
motion.
second that.
Okay.
Motion been made, seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
And then study.
Carries for a
All
study.
right, is it you?
Okay,
I can go back to them with good conscience and let them know that we're.
Yep.
okay.
Do you need a motion, part of that, to study deer in Remington then?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you have to have a two-part motion if you want that to occur right now.
I would second that as well.
I'll make the motion so that
So
Tom
receive,
gets what he's looking for.
so receive and
officially.
place on file, and then, always stop study at Deer and Remington.
Yes.
That it on that motion?
Because that's the four-way stop, correct?
Right.
Yeah, I can see
And
that.
technically, it's a 3 with the private drive, but I mean, the
Right.
function is a 4.
But it's,
I mean, we count all approaches.
Yeah.
That one might be a little difficult. I'll have to get permission from the condo association for me to place
They
those
will.
tubes.
I've helped them out with a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
They get their garbage picked up now, so.
All right, well, Tom, I'll have to work with you then on that.
Please.
You know, so
Yep,
just if you get me
You-
the
you're
contact
great.
information or whatever, and you
Yep.
know.
I'll get
So you got
that.
what you need on that one then, Dave, so that's,
Yeah, I think we're all good.
so then what do we do, 11, 12, 13?
Well, I have to go through each one of them.
Each one, so,
Yeah, because
okay.
they're all a little bit different for different reasons.
Right, so
Okay.
11 is gonna be,
11, request by Alderman Tom DeWayne to pay the right turn only arrow on northbound Danes Avenue at Deer Trail.
Okay, now, their concern here is, when you come up, Dan's, there's two lanes. But when you, and this is a small, this is off of Bader. And this is small part after school, going north. And their question is, taking a right on Deer Trail, what lane are they supposed to be in? Are they supposed to cut way over? And it's like, I was kind of like taken aback by their question because it's pretty obvious. To me, this turns into a one lane that you'd be over as far as you could if you're gonna take a right on Deer Trail. And they're asking for a right turn arrow in here only, how do you say that?
Right turn only marked
Yeah.
on the pavement.
Yep, if you're in this lane, but you're almost in only one lane, right, Carl? I mean, there's two lanes that's coming,
Right.
there's north and southbound.
Really merging three together.
Yeah.
Well, if you want, I want to kind of take a step back and
Yeah.
I wanted to kind of describe what's going on here. What you have is this multi-way stop at Deckner Bader. And it's 2 lanes in each direction at this multi-way. This is a pretty unique multi-way that we have in the city. It's actually pretty high volume. I know that we've even studied it for signals, I think, at one time or another. So you do get quite a bit of volume of traffic here. So you have 2 lanes exiting northbound out of this intersection, going around this curve. And then as you come in over here, you can see that this is marked so that that curve lane is actually is merged out of there. And I remember this was done, I think, right before I came here, and then you and I were talking about that there was merge issues and all that, so then, and we added in these arrows, you can kind of see it here, it's kind of that angled arrow, I know that they're used a lot on DOT style projects on the interstate, but we incorporated, I bought this template, actually, I think this was the one I bought it for. So we got a couple of these arrows, I believe, that are out there, and it's signed for merging and so forth. So that all this northbound traffic gets funneled into this lane. And you're right, once you get north of Deer Trail here, it functions as a single lane in the northbound direction. Now, this is where the issue is. Now, this is, to clarify, this portion of Dan's Avenue, from this stop location at Deckner over to Deer, this is all one-way northbound. There is no southbound traffic at all in here, so this is all one-way traffic. So these vehicles come here, and the thing that's a little bit gray is that this vehicle here, when they come north, some of them may hug that curb lane, some of them go into that inside lane. And that's where I think the stem of this whole request comes in, is that if this was marked as a right turn only, it clarifies it for this vehicle here to stay in the inside lane, and then they'll wait for the appropriate gap. Now what I did is I looked into the crash history at this location, and though I didn't find any sideswipe crashes that occurred here, one thing I thought that was unique is I found 6 northbound rear end crashes within the last 5 years. Now rear end crashes happens for a lot of different reasons, but in the case when, if you read as they say, the devil's in the details, I started reading the details and narratives of these reports. What you're finding is that there's people that are stopping, they think they have a gap, they'll go forward, then they find out, oh, maybe someone's making that turn, or maybe I don't have the appropriate gap, then they're stopping it, but there's another person behind them that's kind of following them, and then they hit them. So I actually think what he's talking about here, there's definitely some foundation to what these residents are saying here, and I think that I can support that with what I found with the crash history. So I think it certainly makes sense to do that, to make the markings as requested. Again, this is probably gonna be something that we would have to wait till spring on, just because our crews are shut down.
Motion?
But it's something I can definitely put in the work on.
Not to cut you off, Dave, but
Yeah, I don't want to talk about it.
motion been made,
No.
second,
Who made
I
it?
made the motion that we.
second,
Yes.
Dan,
Second,
Carl,
You can look at me when you
Sure,
say it.
second.
third,
second. Motion been made, second, all in favor?
aye.
Motion carries. 12, request for Alderman Tom DeWay to establish a one-way stop condition on Savage Street and Deer Trail.
Yeah, again, one of those cut-through situation off of Dan's Avenue. They come through, fly down Savage to get to Deer Trail, to get up around back up to Deckner Avenue. And what they're doing, and they're saying, and it's been established, I sat there probably in my 10 years, 8 different times, and we've always caught them just going through it. But again, does it warrant a stop sign there? I think it does, but I'd rather listen to what Dave's gonna say, and
Can we just do a traffic?
Because that's
study?
different from speeding, they're not, I mean, they're just approaching, they're coming way up.
Then stop.
Savage is the north-south street,
Yes.
Yes.
Right, yeah, Deer Trail runs east-west, you
so
have
it's the minor.
southbound Savage here, and this is again one of those locations where we have no control. I mean, it's really the same thing as this, it's just a mirror image, you know. but
Right.
south. And, yeah, definitely, just like I had stated with the Browning Road request, it certainly makes more sense to at least start if you're gonna do any sort of control at this location, is to always stop that minor movement, make it clear, I think, to the motorists. I think it's one of those things that motorists expect. They expect the T that comes in to be yielding the right of way to that through movement here. Do I think it's gonna contribute to speed or not contribute? I don't think it's gonna have any impact on it, to be quite
No,
honest.
this isn't a speed issue.
No, this is more of a right-of-way assignment issue, and I just think it makes sense.
I'll make a motion to install one-way stop on southbound Savage at Deer Trail.
Second.
Motion been made, second, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. 13, request for Alderman Tom Duane to discuss take possible action in construction of speed bumps on various streets in the Deer Trail neighborhood.
Okay, this is all that area, wanting speed bumps on Remington, on Deer Trail, just slow them down, because a lot of these cars, you know, they fly through there, and they're expensive cars, and they're little sports cars by the kids at the schools. And so, I did tell them we don't have any in Green Bay. I'm bringing this forward, but I think if we do some of this other stuff, that'll help in a long way. So, I'm not in favor of speed bumps, so, but these are my constituents that came through. I think if we really put emphasis and if we can get traffic stops in there once in a while when they got time, that'll help it during, you know, peak hours when it happens. Morning hours and, like I say, the peak hours of school letting out and that's when it happens. I know 5 years ago, we really hit it heavy and it stopped pretty good, but then after year went by, it started to you get a new crop of kids by school, you know that. Yeah.
Retrain them every 12 months.
Yeah. So before, what they did, I forgot which captain it was, he would help you out and do the heavy traffic at the beginning of the school year, and they would continue it, you know, before school and after school. And it kind of set the tone, because you still caught the other people going to work, so.
Move to receive and place on file number 13.
Okay.
Motion been made, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Go back to 4. Request by Alderman Westficki to provide a crosswalk at Nicolay Drive Trail going to park area /parking by Lambeau Cottage and UWGB.
The proposed crosswalk actually is in an area that's under the jurisdiction of the Brown County Public Works Department. You may have remembered, I think it was a meeting or two ago, some items in this area. That city jurisdiction on Nicolay Drive stops at main entrance to UWGB, so this whole area north of there is actually under the county's jurisdiction.
I'll make this easy for you. Make a motion to give it to Alderman Duane, being the Brown County Supervisor, bring it forward to Brown County.
Sounds good.
How's that?
Sounds
I
good.
have no problem with it.
Well, you can't do none.
Tom-
But I can.
Oh, yeah,
It's Tom Seaver, right? Isn't he
Tom
the-
Seaver, I'll
Yeah.
talk to him.
Yeah.
We'll have to receive and place that.
We're gonna need to receive and place on file, refer to Alderman or
Yeah.
County Supervisor Duane, is that?
Yeah, sure.
Move.
However
I'll
you
help
guys
you.
want to address it. I mean,
Just
as
like
long as
that.
it, to me, as long as it gets to the county.
You help me, I'll help you.
All right, there you go, got that one?
So I'll
Receive
so
and
Alderman
place
Tom
on
Duane
file?
or
I'll
Forward
call,
the
Second.
motion to forward to Alderman or County Supervisor Duane.
yeah, and I'll call both of them, the county supervisor out there in West Biskie tomorrow.
You glad you stuck around?
so then
Yeah.
is the motion then the second part Alderman Tom Duane to contact both Alderman
Yes.
Visky and County Supervisor Tom Seaver.
Yep,
That's what I heard.
and I will do it.
Okay.
Mark seconded it.
Yeah.
It's not too late, I'll call him
I think
tonight.
Who made the motion though?
It's too late.
Sam,
What time
and I
is it?
seconded it.
You did, okay.
Motion been made and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Termination of trial periods, 14.
Thanks, guys.
Okay.
If you got a second too, then after this, I just want like a couple things on this one I'll talk to you about real quick, just so you, So, okay, number 14, 15, and 16 should be all taken together. Termination of trial period for this area. This is one of those where, actually, Alderman Tom Duane was involved initially, and then Alderman Nenning was involved. This actually is technically Alderman David Nenning's district. And I think just with all the information going around and communication, there was a little bit of, there's just a lot going on. So, long story short, there was some, after this got in place, some of the residents were questioning why it was as it was. We found out actually that pretty much everyone in that block, minus the resident at 1917 Newberry, which happens to be this residence right here, all of them didn't want to have the parking restriction, but the one in 1917 did want the parking restriction. So that being said, because it was in a 90-day trial and we're really going with the spirit of what the whole request was about, we made that change with the signs during the 90-day trial, which is what we have the ability to do with staff. And it's my understanding that everyone's all happy now about this. So in essence, what we have is a restricted zone here, and then this zone is open and this is open. And just so you know, all of this then to the east towards the high school is all still is 2 hours. So if it works for the residents, it works for me.
Move to ordinance?
So I wanted, my recommendation is to move to ordinance as modified.
Sounds good.
Motion made, seconded by Alderman Stoyer. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Last item would be December meeting, which
Yeah, it looks like
December
December
14th.
21st, that's the week of Christmas.
December
Unless,
14th? Would the
now-
14th work?
now remember, like tonight, I mean, we're meeting here, and there's a room conflict. It's up to you. If you guys want to meet a week earlier, as long as you don't have any other commitments or anything, I don't, that might be you, Mark.
I've got a conflict on the 14th.
Okay.
Well, let's go to the 14th then.
Now we need,
Yes.
Well, you don't want to go on the week of Christmas though.
It doesn't have to be on the same day either. You can pick any day you want,
Mondays
because
are
it's just a special meeting.
what
Mondays
is,
I always got a lot of conflicts no matter what.
What you could do is cancel the December meeting and then just hold a special meeting at a future time after everyone can kind of maybe email around and say, hey, is this date open and all that, and then come forward and we have a special meeting of the traffic commission.
well, everybody's gonna be here except Victoria's not gonna be available in December, right?
Doesn't sound like,
So-
yeah.
Maybe we can decide tonight what works for us, so we can, instead of,
Which week are you looking at?
I would prefer not the week of Christmas, because
yeah,
I'm
I'd like
actually
to go.
trying
week
to
of the
take some
14th
time
and the
off around
18th.
that time.
What's that? The
How many nights
14th
you
of
got
the-
conflict that week?
The only conflict I got the week of the 14th is Monday night.
So
We
I
do-
think
We
council's
could do it
Tuesday,
another
right?
night.
When is
Tuesday.
council, that
Council's on the 15th.
15th?
First and the 15th.
What about the week prior? Because then, you know what, then you could get council to act on the 15th of whatever motions happen. So if you guys, even,
December 8th.
just a week prior, what?
Well,
So-
we talked at
7th?
length about the first item, the speeding, blah, 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 and then it seems like that seems to be a real push, so I think some people would like to see some, now that, Carl, you mentioned that we have a division now, I think something.
Haven't got it yet. We've got
No,
it.
but it-
Yeah, it was approved today.
It was approved, so it's gonna take a little time to,
Does it, just so I know, does this require action by a personnel committee, or is this something that you guys can implement right away?
As far as,
Establishment of the traffic unit.
it's actually contractual between the officers union and the city. And that's
Does not take personnel committee or council action?
It'll come to personnel sooner or later.
eventually, but
Yeah, it'll have to.
that'd be the contract ratification,
Yeah, yeah.
basically.
Oh,
Yeah.
But I guess when it comes down to what
And
we're
we're
talking
gonna
about
be
here, you can
talking
still get
about-
the.
Contracts at the next council meeting, the police contracts, so
Alright.
I already have it on there.
So does that mean that you cannot do anything until it happens?
Believe
Oh,
they're,
if you got an agreement, I believe they can. I mean,
yeah, because I think they can
You
still
just
go
basically
under
call-
a MOU
the chief
until,
can, yeah, the chief can use them as he sees fit.
right.
Okay.
Just-
that's 3 weeks from today.
That's 3 weeks, we'll
3
be able to
weeks.
get your traffic
Is that
done
gonna
on
be?
west,
Um,
south.
The unit's
I can
not
get
gonna
those
be
road
running
tubes
by
out
that.
as soon as
Hold on.
possible, as long as I got them
PD
charged.
gauges,
I gotta make sure my units are charged, I don't know if they are,
Okay.
they may have already put them away for the season, but, And then we got the West Point
I was
study
gonna
as
say,
well.
can you get
Well,
that done in 3
so that's
weeks?
6 in 1 week.
Is that 3 weeks too quick?
Well, what else do we have to do though? I mean, it's just those 2 locations, right?
Yep.
Yeah, no, I'll have those done before.
And don't have anything else on your meeting, you wanna get out of here, so it's just a one special meeting on that one subject of West Point and South Point.
Well, if other items come up too, I was there, I mean, we,
That's up to you guys, I'm trying to help you.
oh, so you're saying with the special meeting, we can
Thank
Would
you.
you
tweak
just
the
have,
agenda a little bit
so,
to get
probably
it.
to pick a date
That
or
work,
do a
the 8th
special
would be
meeting?
fine with me. Does that work for everybody else?
The
Carl?
8th doesn't work for
Tuesdays aren't
me.
good.
The 8th doesn't either?
The 8th doesn't, because it's high school
7th, I'd be
hockey.
You
good.
wanna go to the 7th then?
The 7th, the 9th, and the
I'd be
10th
good
work for me,
Monday.
but not the 8th.
Monday the 7th, and that's what, 2 weeks?
7th is-
7th would be, or no, the 8th, I'm trying to think.
Probably.
7th is
November
a Monday.
30th is
The
a,
7th is a
Monday.
Monday, it's 3 weeks.
7th is Monday.
7th is Monday?
Tuesday.
And that works for everyone here?
Well, I don't know when P and W is, but that's,
I'll sit on P and W for you if you want.
you know, if that happens. All right,
well, it's gonna be kind of a quick meeting anyway, so
okay. Either way, I'll have,
hopefully.
we'll work it out.
So,
Team effort.
7th or 8th.
7th.
Monday the 7th, 5:30, room
The day that will live in
207.
infamy.
Yep.
right?
Monday the 7th?
And if there's a conflict with that room, like you're saying, the PW's in there, we'll just hold it in here again, I guess?
Yep.
Or 604, I like to spend there.
I'm delusional right now.
I
So,
think we've had it.
I think we've had
I
it.
think I've ever been here as
I
long
feel like it was
as.
a P and W meeting.
I think we get paid
Well,
by
we
the
better,
hour.
okay, yeah, we better adjourn then,
Second.
so.
who motioned to adjourn?
Chuck,
Chuck did.
Cold.
You
I'm
second?
actually on the way up.
all in favor?
Maybe I can rely on you.
Motion carries.
Uh,
Go home.
Go home.
Somewhere.
Haven't had supper yet.
Ah.
Two.
You gotta shut the water
Two
off.
up. Wow, this is just under 3 hours for traffic. This is unheard of.
This is unheard of, yeah. The first-
Hey, and I tried being quiet too. So.
Get your mic down there.
Carl, I got just two quick things to ask. Can I?
It is.